Back to Summoning Insight. It's me, MonteCristo. I'm back. Do I know anything about competitive League of Legends anymore? No. So don't expect that kind of episode.
Right, their own jokes on that one. He said he walked right into that one, guys. I didn't tell him to say that. They'd be like, "Well, what's new on again? Welcome back."
I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun watching Worlds and being like, "What the fuck does Otacon do?"
Yeah, by the way, let's just say this at the top of the show, because I don't like to lead people on no false pretense. Monty not only quit because he can't watch League of Legends, he's not planning on watching League of Legends, and this isn't permanent. Like, he's just back for this episode. We might do some more as well, see off season, who knows? But he's not now going to just suddenly be like, yeah, I'm going to watch all of LEC next. He's not. He might watch the odd game, who knows? But unfortunately, and even though I don't mind, by the way, we could have figured a way out. He's one of those people who's too honest in esports. Not a lot of people on the shows do this. And he actually feels like he has to watch the games to comment on them. I know it's a crazy idea, fans who don't watch the LPL but tell me all the time who's fucking shit or whatever.
Crazy yeah, so basically, no, I did watch a decent amount of League this year, but it was mostly LCK. But, you know, LCK playoffs I tuned in for. I saw a lot of Worlds, obviously, because I'm still interested. It was mostly a joke, guys. It's not like I spent 15 years watching this game. I didn't just suddenly stop watching it altogether, but I definitely watched it way more casually than the
I'm watching like fucking Fear X plays Nong Shimmer in the middle of the game. Exactly, that's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem. I always tell people the prestige games, everyone can comment on it. It's the equivalent of watching like Monday Night Football or something. But the problem would be what someone asked you about, like, you know, the third string receiver on the shit. No one goes that deep. You have to be a nerd to be on that shit, boys.
Yeah, so you know, I've been watching the game, but not in an analytic capacity. Let's put it that way. And really, I watched a few, you know, China games here and there. NA games. LEC's on at a really weird time for me in Asia, so I basically never watched LEC.
Shit anyway. By the way, the joke is they're still asking, what does Arcad do? Because the joke is LEC teams just throw the Arcad every fucking time, even if they play each other, mate. It's mental.
But here's the thing, guys. If you did want a really boring episode about my opinions on formats and business of esports, I've got a banger coming up for you right now.
Okay. What's this?
Because yeah, no, I mean, like, think about it. The format stuff is going to be really interesting heading into next year, and I never got a chance to talk about the return of the LCS and LEC formats, as well as the return of the LCS brand. We could talk about all the questionable decisions that Riot made about that, and I don't have co-streaming rights, so unlike Yamato, I'll just be mean and true. Not that he wouldn't do that, but I'm sure he was not thrilled with the LCS rebrand either. But in any case, like, there's a lot of stuff to talk about there. We could talk about Faker's legacy, always a fun topic. So there's definitely tons of stuff we can chat about today.
By the way, if you want, I'll do the usual thing where we free association, just segue off something you just said. Do you want to know? This is where, mate, it's like people are just trying to piss me off on the internet. So on the one hand, Monty, this is a thing I struggle with. It's my dilemma. On the one hand, yes, I want things the way I think they should be, or the way I would like them. That's a totally natural human reaction. But I also, especially as someone with that fucking tism, I crave structure. I crave consistency, so I can actually, you know, I can codify what things are. I can observe the patterns of how people behave. That way, whether right or wrong, I know there's an internal logic. So get ready, Monty. Even though I obviously don't think Faker ever should be PC Player of the Year or nominee, because he hasn't been that elite for years, although the joke is this year he's very good. Here's the mental part, Monty. Last 2 years, he wasn't just nominated, he won PC Player of the Year at the Esports Awards. As in, he was better than Ziwu and everyone, Donk, all of them, right? But the mad thing, if you watched League,
no domestic titles, of course.
The mad thing, if you watched League, was he wasn't even the best player. This will blow your mind, mate. He was better this year. And at Worlds, he was cracked this year. Didn't even get nominated, even though he also won Worlds. Make it make sense! Please! God, it makes sense.
I guess probably
so now I have to argue against my own position, because that was like, you should nominate him and say, you shouldn't, but fuck, you sort of should. Like, fuck, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Oh, he was, but the thing is, over the course of the whole year, he was worse than BDD and Chovy. So he wasn't even like top 2, arguably. This wasn't like previous years where at least he was in the finals, but losing to Gen.G. And yeah, I think obviously, like, this is why for those of you who are out there, we hate the narratives that spun up around him for the past few years, because what happens is you guys all say, oh man, Faker's so great. He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. He's so amazing. First off, you didn't watch the rest of the year. You literally only watched
Yeah.
Worlds. And secondly, it ruins actually praising him now. Again, this is why we like to set the narrative straight when it's happening, so that we can say, hey, maybe he wasn't so good the last couple of years, but this year he was much better. And he won Worlds again. You know, we can talk about his individual form honestly instead of always just being deluded about it. And I think that's
Good one for you. I'll give you an angle, because here's the thing. You know what? Certain people, they might not have it anymore, Monty, but they know the role they're playing on WWE. You know, like at the end when they still had Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair in it almost to the end bit. They'd just come out, no joke, like 70-year-old men. And then people would have to pretend they were losing wrestling matches to them because it's all about the character and putting over the big guy, right? So in the same sense, right, the good old Slasher still larps that he's like a journalist, or even worse, Monty, he still pretends he watches 10 esports all in depth. Even though I can tell you, as someone who did watch like 3, you have to give your whole life to that motherfucker. And spoiler, that doesn't mean smoke weed and then spend half the time on Twitter. That isn't how it works. So here's an example that will actually blow your fucking mind, mate. Slasher, even though he could in his role do things like do real Theon type characterizations like, hey, Faker's just won. Here's the historic thing. Here's what you would compare it to if you were being legit and you were Slasher, actually who he was 10 years ago. What you'd do is you'd go, Faker just won his 6th title, and then you'd find like people like Ogre 2 from fucking whatever it was, Halo. You'd find all the greatest players, Flash. You'd figure out what age they were when they won the max set, and you do that. Instead, Slasher, I think half as rage bait and half actually just not knowing the sports that he's even addressing, did this thing where he put number of world championships before age 30, and Faker was like at the top with 6, and then, you know, at that point in time Michael Jordan had, I think, like 2, and then Wayne Gretzky had like, you know, fucking 4 or whatever. And here's the problem with that, right? Immediately, if you know anything about all these sports, well, spoiler, immediately anytime you see someone compare games like that, it's a hack like Slasher, just immediately assume the following: is comparing apples with oranges. This is why that's a mental tweet, bro, because if you know anything about basketball, people didn't come out of high school until like the fucking 90s, bro. Like Michael Jordan played, I think, 3 years at the University of North Carolina. So Michael Jordan joined the NBA at 21. Faker got to win worlds when he was 17 years old. Like, you've immediately made like a completely false narrative. That's bonkers, basically, because notice he didn't go world championships. He put it before 30, because that does imply, by the way, that they're all on some sort of even footing, and Faker beat them all. Like, you are doing that when you put that
it's obvious
forward,
that when men have to physically develop to play sports, nobody
Of course.
plays hockey out of high school,
No.
right? You know, this is
I'd
like
get shit on if you did. Uzi I
when-
was like in worlds, like when he was like 15 or something, mate.
Yeah.
It's games in it.
But yeah, I do think it's absurd, especially because highly, you know, contact sports, nobody plays in the NFL before
No.
you're 22, because you're just not physically large enough to do it up until that point. Now, obviously, sports, if you could be rushed through the system, and they have been doing it because basketball's not a contact sport, and many people are, not many, but enough people are tall enough at that point in time or have the dexterity to do it. But even then, you know, that would be a relatively recent phenomenon, like you stated. And by the way, most NBA players, as far as I'm aware, still go to at least 1 year of college. Typically. So I don't know. Yeah, obviously it's disingenuous, because it should be more about the real tweet is in the first X number of years of their career. Right.
By the way, though, the point I'm making though is Slasher isn't just like, you know, a random LOL rage bait account. Like, he's doing that because he knows what people want to see on social media, and he is intentionally feeding them. And unfortunately, it's going to what you're saying. The problem with Faker at this point in time, mate, is most people aren't here for like the League of Legends Faker players or what his team did to win. They're here to hop on the end of what looks like. Essentially, they think Faker winning now is like the next season of Stranger Things. Like, well, I was watching it all those years and I want to see how it ends. Like, they're on some like narrative shit, like you're saying. Like, and unfortunately, the worst thing about it is now we've just come here. I'll tell you the obvious thing I want to bring up here, which is if you're a Gumayushi fan, why do here's the problem. Why do all the T1 fans agree with the Faker narrative, but then attempt to do their own narrative? This is one thing I've always said, Monty. You know, when people call me an asshole because I say a player who's really great, I'll give you an example, Fallen in Counter-Strike. It seems like all I'm doing is saying he's shit. because people will go, he's the greatest. It's like, well, now I'm going to argue against that. My problem with this goes like this. There is, no matter what people tell you, a finite amount of praise. Everyone can't be the greatest. Otherwise, there's no distinction, right? Everyone can't be a Hall of Famer, Monty. If everyone's a Hall of Famer, then what happens eventually is when you let in like some running back with like 20 touchdowns, now it's not that special that like Emmitt Smith was in there because they all get in there to get 20. What you need actually is the guy who has like, and this has happened before, people who got like injured and only got the 40 and didn't have the credit, and they would have been in the Hall of Fame, but they didn't. And that distinction makes it super special. That's why you cry when you get in the Hall of Fame in the NFL, etc. Because it's, you know, there's like a specialist distinction there of like, it's, I mean, I think it was Deion Sanders or somebody who said it's not the Hall of Very Good, it's the Hall of Fame. And that's what I want people to understand, because here's the problem with T1 narratives, Monty, right? So Gumayushi just left T1.
Yep.
Guys, if you ask me, I'm not even a Gumayushi fan, but he is bizarrely good at Worlds. Might be the most clutch ADC at Worlds. Even though, by the way, I actually do think it's justified sometimes considering placing him in LCK. Sometimes in LCK, I do think Ruler and Viper are just leagues ahead of him, you know. But the problem you have is this. If he's the guy who's been super clutch all 3 Worlds, he was just the finals MVP of this Worlds, then to me to give him credit, how can I if it was all Faker? If it's just Faker who wins them all and he gets all the credit, then why do I care that Gumayushi left logically? There's no reason to. Similarly, when Zeus left, it doesn't matter. By the way, it does. I miss me with the, like, you can just recruit Thorin. Like, it did matter. They would have been a lot more dominant than had Zeus. But that's the problem. You take every other player, by the way, the obvious person that gets absolutely wrecked by all the Faker now is fucking Carrier. Like, bro, think about this for a second, Monty. Imagine if, look, Chovy did have some excellent team players now, but imagine if he just spent the last 5 years of his career playing with like the equivalent of like Mata, basically. Someone where everyone's like, oh my God, you're like the god of that position. You've redefined the whole game. You have to get some of the credit to that guy, for fuck's sake. Come on.
Also, in T1's dominant period over the last few years, it has been Carrier having weird support champions that enable hyper dominant lane play. Even earlier this year with Gumayushi, I think one of the weirder narratives I saw about Faker, like about T1 at Worlds, was that, oh, well, in retrospect, because Gumayushi was the MVP of finals, benching him was the wrong decision for Smash.
Oh, that's a dog shit
which is
take,
like, you guys realize that benching him for Smash might have actually motivated him. One of the primary problems we always said with Gumayushi is he has some whack champion pool issues that have caused T1 real problems in certain metas. Like, he can't play Zeri, for example. So from my understanding, his benching caused him to improve at certain champions. And if you're a coach, sometimes it is your job to light a fire under a player's ass and threaten them with benching or with not being the starting player anymore and seeing what happens. Because, you know, lock in the first tournament is the time to do it because it's the least impactful time of year. And if you can get those results through the end.
Yeah, LCK Cup.
Or LCK Cup, yes.
Yeah.
But
same
at the start
shit,
of the year. Yeah. But before they go to first stand, right? And this is the perfect time to do it because it's the least impactful time of the year. So it's not going to affect your MSI chances.
By the way,
your world's chances.
I have to set you up for a classic Monty angle here. This is what in a way I love, but I also hate about Koreans, Monty, right? So they made it last year. Remember, they did that stupid thing with the season where, because the road to MSI was just almost like a gauntlet, where the first win for Gen G got them to MSI, but then they never had to play T1 after T1 bit annual life, and there wasn't a finals for spring, basically. It was just the road to MSI, and that season just extended. Then you had the summer part, but that was just adding to the results of the spring, right? And so LCK is just one season now. You get one title at the end of it, right? So me and Dom were even saying, we're going to give an unofficial title to Gen G for the spring, because they should have been a final. By the way, you're so fucking dumb. You basically removed what would have been one of the highest matches of the year for whatever reason, I don't know. But this is even worse, Monty. You could at least cope and go. At least we still have the LCK Cup. This is what you're going to love, Monty. Something like a week into the LCK season, they even flashed on screen a graphic of, Faker getting like 1,000 kills. And everyone was like, wait, winning 1,000 matches, I think it was. And everyone was like, what? I thought he did it during the LCK Cup. LCK decided the Cup is treated like it was the Kespa Cup, bro. Their stats don't count towards the LCK regular season records, etc. Why would you do that? Like, by the way, to me, it just looked like a full Cup season. It was awesome. It was brilliant. We all watched it. We're all in gear. Why at the end go, that doesn't count though? It's like, why? What are these people? What is this?
My favorite part, Thorin, was when before MSI, the finals was just a qualification match because
that's what I mean. Yeah.
The top two seeds that already played.
Even though, again, like I say, All you had to do was just then, when T1 beat Our Life, have them play Gen G, call it the
Yes.
MSI final, and by the way, that would be like 1.5 million viewers. You know, it's the most slang dunk game ever, but they just decided like, maybe we don't do that best game of the season type shit.
I just remember watching the Gen G HLE match, and it was such a banger. And then you're just like, well, I guess I didn't want to see more of that. I think I think our last match should just be a qualification match between the third and second place teams, and because MSI is just more important than these domestic titles, I suppose, right? Which it is, to be fair, but also we should be crowning a champion.
Mate. Yeah, let's do that conversation though, because I'll tell you another thing I really hate, mate. If you're the dickhead T1 fan who goes, Worlds is all that matters, I know you're not a Faker fan. You dumb fuck, he has 10 LCK titles. If you know anything about being a fan even, you would never give up that position, by the way. Because that's the thing, especially if they fuck with the format, it'll still take Trophy like 3 years or more to get to that, even if they go back to the 2-split format. It's really hard. Here's what people don't get. I know he now did win 6 Worlds. I mean, I'll just try to what I said before. It's in part also so the excellent teammates he got, how the game changed. The problem is this, though. The actual record, I always thought, looked most unbeatable. Bear in mind, Faker used to be on 3 years ago, used to be the 10 LCK mods. I used to think no one will ever get 10 L, because the problem is the sheer longevity. Like, bro, Peanut was like 7 million teams and only got like 6 or 7 or something. Like, it's really hard to get 10 LCK titles. So when people tell me LCK doesn't matter, it's like, mate, it is still the best league in the world. Like, this is just stupid. Like, I get that. Listen, I'll give you an example. I think in Counter-Strike, the best tournament is IEM Cologne, which isn't a major. It's what we call prestige. I know it's going to be a major next year, but it hasn't been for a long time now. It's what we call a prestige event because it's so elite, right? But the most important tournament is the major. Now, do you get this? It can be a difference there. One can be the best tournament and the hardest. The other can be the most prestigious because one is the World Championship and the other one is like the one that had the best format, etc. So what I don't get is the best tournament in League of Legends in terms of best is fucking LCK, mate. I mean, sadly, we saw it again for Worlds. Like, I'll tell you what, I'll use that meme for once. I do the Fell for It Then award every year for the fucking LPL, mate. I'm a mark. Like, they get me like wrestling. I even believe Top Esports every time is going to do it, mate. Like, it's so good. They can look at Jackie. Oh, shit's Worlds. So anyway, the point is, LCK, first of all, shows it every fucking Worlds. And then also, like, you can certainly, Worlds is the one that if you go on a wiki 10 years from now, you're going to look at as the most important. But the idea it's the only tournament, you just ruin League of Legends if you do that, mate.
It also makes Faker's career less impressive, because the reason why we hold LCK in such high regard is that in the first basically 3, maybe 4 years of Faker's career, winning LCK was legit harder than winning Worlds.
I'd argue it maybe still is, mate. Like, I actually think the main thing on Worlds, as far as I can tell, Monty, that makes it so hard is, number one, is obviously the pressure. Like, half these guys are beating themselves. I'm sorry, Trophy and Peanut have just beaten themselves at half the Worlds. The joke is they're so good that only they could beat themselves. That's almost what they've done. And then the other thing is this, like, actually, this will sound like a weird detail, but I actually do think that one of the hardest things about Worlds is the idea that as every team gets knocked out, they're done for the year, mate. Some of them even go home. You just get less and less practice partners. Yep. And then the final becomes some weird rocky final where, like, you had to have some secret training partner who could mimic. Whereas in LCK, mate, when you're playing the LCK final, every team in Korea is still practicing you the week before. Your actual form level could be crazy. That's why I think about how many more historic finals we have at LCK than Worlds. Worlds, this one delivered, but most of them don't, mate. Most of them are 3-0, or one team just wins game one and you just know they win the series. Like, actually, unfortunately, it's more for the spectacle that we watch the Worlds finals. I watch the LCK for the highest league and best quality league in the world, bro. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, and it may be true again. Like, I don't think it was true that LCK was as strong during the era in which a lot of the Chinese teams were coming up. So, like, 2018 through 2022, maybe.
Yeah.
It probably was harder to win Worlds, which conveniently, by the way, for Faker's legacy, was when he was not winning Worlds. And he was, he was not winning LCK as much during those time periods either. But
even a couple of times he didn't qualify.
I mean, objectively, I think the first 2 years, definitely, of Faker's career, LCK was significantly harder because that was before any Korean players had left Korea, and he was facing people like, Rookie and players that would eventually leave.
All those sick players, of course, yeah.
that would eventually leave. And so, yeah, that's why the LCK finals really matters to a lot of people. And I do think right now it is arguable again that winning LCK is harder than winning Worlds. Maybe not to the degree it used to be, definitely not to the degree it used to be, but still to a certain extent. Um, and that's another thing where it just really diminishes Faker's legacy, unfortunately, to have all these bizarre narratives. But at the same time, Thor, none of the people who are saying this nonsense ever watched those games. First off, they didn't watch them at the time because they were like 8 years old. And secondly, they didn't go back and watch them either. These people
I do
are
love
not
that,
out there grinding VODs of Faker's titles.
First of all, I can tell you as an esports historian, most people sadly don't even watch VODs like of modern shit. They never go back. No one goes back. I'm the only lunatic who does that before an article, mate. But also, my kink is the guy who tells me like I don't know about faking. You're like 2017. Then you click the profile. They're bragging in their profile. They're 20 years old. It's like, do the maths. Because here's the problem, Monty. Since I don't believe they go back and watch the VODs, they just don't. And then, by the way, some of the early VODs probably won't even exist with the way the OGN channel works. But also, and they won't be on YouTube. But also, even worse,
they might be in Korean, but they won't be in English.
Let's say you did watch the game live. You were 7 years old. What the fuck do I care about what you thought about as a 7-year-old child? That would be like we're doing a movie review and you're like, I saw The Usual Suspects. I was 6 at the time. Here's what I think of the twist. Like, this
is what I said about Jojo when Jojo said that I forget what was the exact term he used. Like Faker's form. Hold on,
it was like the best it had ever been, or something like that. Something weird like that, right? Something along those lines. Like he'd never been better or some shit. I'm gonna guess is what they're gonna say.
Hold on, I have to find this. I'll find it in a second. But yeah, I mean, what was saying from experience, Faker is in his prime right now, and it's crazy. I don't know what that is supposed to mean.
You need to get triggered.
I would assume. Now, I'm going to tell you how I interpret Faker is in his prime right now. That means that he is at the peak of his historical performance, which is just not true. Like, the thing about Jojo is how old is Jojo?
21 maybe.
Jojo is 21 years old. He was born in 2004, which means he was 9 when Faker debuted. 9 years old. And I promise you, 9-year-old Jojo Pion was not watching Faker, and because he was playing Fortnite before he was doing this. I know exactly what he was doing. He was a good Fortnite player and then switched to League in his late teens. So he certainly was not watching League of Legends, and certainly not from a perspective of knowledge. And the thing about Faker in his prime is that he was so dominant that Riot had to change the video game League of Legends to make him less dominant. He was unbelievably dominant, hard carrying his team. So there's no way that you could look at it and say, now, partially, he can't be as dominant anymore because the game changed to allow mid laners and carry players to be less dominant. They changed the game. Okay. So you literally cannot be that dominant anymore. But at the time, he was light years ahead of the next player. And we can say, wow, isn't he such an insane in-game leader? It's amazing he's kept the mechanical form that he has. It's amazing he was as good as he was this year. Was he the best mid laner in Korea? No, he was like third best, maybe. I think everybody would say BDD and Chovy in the entirety of 2025 was better than Faker. BDD was better than Faker in the finals. But when we talk about Faker, it's like, wow, look at this transformation he has to an in-game leader. His game knowledge, his mind is so incredible. And in spite of his age and his experience, his mechanics, and he's still a very competent player, especially when he has teammates. But it's his mind that's the most amazing thing right now. And in his prime, Jojo is not listening to their comms, guys. So I mean, this tweet is just such nephew nonsense that it's really hard to appreciate, because it sucks too, because these people are just completely ruining the actual narrative
of what they're implying. Career. They're implying, because here's the secret, they didn't do this. They're implying you don't need to watch the VODs, Monty. He's doing his best work now. Why would you need to go watch 2013, 2015? He's the best now. And are you ready? Because Dom, by the way, almost like lost his sanity over this exact topic. Are you ready for what happened when he confronted them on the notion of like, well, obviously it's not his prime, you fucking fool. They said, yeah, but because League of Legends has gotten harder, that means technically, this isn't incorrect, he might actually be better at League of Legends now
That's
than
true.
back then. But here's the
That's
mad
true.
part about that, Monty.
He is better now.
I did the thing I do with every single faker topic. Every single faker narrative immediately collapses when you just apply it to a different player. So I'll give you an example of like what I mean by that. Before I get to my point, I've made this point a million times, right? You know, if I was to have a discussion now of Chovy versus Faker, they would bring up all that shit from the 2010s. They'd go, what about 2013 and 2015? But if I was to dare, Monty, compare like a Caps today to Froggen, they'd go, why the fuck are you bringing up stuff from the early 2010s? It's like, well, wait a minute. It counts for that guy though. When it's Froggen, that's irrelevant, and it was the old league. But so here's what they do, right? Here's why it doesn't work to say Faker's in his prime now, because that implies every great player was in their prime at the end of their pro career when they were still pro. So you ready, guys? You know, you naively, you fool, Monty. You in your ivory tower imagine 2014 Matter was the peak of Matter's. No. Matter's peak was in 2019 on T1 when he was benched for effort and his career ended. That was his peak, bro. That's the best he ever was. What are we talking about? If you want to, depth, I used to think he was fucking unbelievable. No, at the very end, on like fucking whatever it would have been at the end, it'd be like D plus or some shit. That was the peak. Notice it just doesn't work. It doesn't work for any other player. Every other player we all know. By the way, Uzi, oh, you're all good. No, Uzi at the end on EDG when he just played a bit of a split. That was his peak. Yeah, who knew? Who knew after all that?
So here's the analogy I'll make for you, because people will not understand this. When Faker is legitimately significantly better now than he was in 2014. It's not even a question.
Everyone has to be, don't they?
Yeah, everybody has to be, but it's not just because, guys, you can't necessarily say that about other sports, because other sports, the practice doesn't evolve. So I'm going to educate some nephews here about what League of Legends was like in 2013 when Faker debuted. Okay. There wasn't a practice tool. All right. The reason why an insect kick was so insane in 2013 was because to practice an insect kick, which involved ward hopping and flashing, you had to do this once every 5 minutes because there wasn't a way to reset cooldowns. So you had to play ladder games or literally scrims or sit in a server with a teammate, and every 5 minutes you could practice another flash.
Is even against the bots, you'd have had to wait because the flash doesn't go down. Yeah, exactly. I know.
So there wasn't a practice tool to reset cooldowns. There weren't dummies to like practice your mechanics on, guys. They added that later. So imagine trying to get good at basketball, but you have to wait 5 minutes between every 3-point attempt. That's insane. That's totally insane to practice that way, but they had to. So players were able to get better. There is compounding knowledge in sports, obviously, and League was a game in its infancy. And I imagine I have not been around for the infancy of other major sports. So I'm not going to like time travel back to the 1800s and know what fucking baseball was like in 1870. You know what I mean? But I imagine that early sports, people get better really quickly. Because in the first 10 years...
I've actually done this. I can tell you, the sport I watched in its infancy was MMA. And I can tell you,
that's true.
Mate, that might, if you want to see exactly what you're talking about, the difference between when Hoist Gracie won the UFC in like, I think it was like the fucking 90s, mate. You only have to go something mad, bro, like 5 years, and you would think you'd gone like 50 years. That's how the level just went like crazy. Because as you're saying, it's actually in the earliest period, you can show the biggest gap, obviously, yeah.
And people will catch up really fast. And also, as people start to retire, they'll become coaches like we see in many sports, and they will be able to transmit that knowledge more efficiently. But also, guys, in this time period, right now, the professional teams all get each other's replays to watch, right? There were no replays. You just had to watch VODs, and if the camera wasn't in the right place, like, get fucked. You know what I mean? You couldn't even watch your own replays because those didn't exist in the game. You couldn't practice the game. So, yes, players are much better than they were at that time, partially through the compounding of knowledge and experience of a new sport, partially because you must understand that the practice tools just didn't exist in this time period. The film tools didn't exist, right? The software tools to break down the game, the stats didn't exist. None of this existed. So yes, it is not untrue to say that Faker is better, but what we have to take in when we analyze sports is relative strength, right? And the difference between even Chovy and everyone else right now is less than Faker and every other mid laner on Earth in 2013. That's it. Period. It's not a controversial statement. You watch these games, it is unreal. You know, he used to pop out with bizarre champions in the finals that nobody played mid and then absolutely dumpster people with them.
By
You
the
know,
way, I
nobody even
tried to
does
do
that
this
anymore.
because I came from CS and Quake and I'd followed all the Brood War. I made this mistake myself early on in League of Legends. I'll tell you a little anecdote here I've never told anyone. This is actually getting a time capsule. We're going back to 2013. So in early 2013, in spring, you will remember, Monty, they did the first ever All-Stars event where it was voted by like the fans or whatever the fuck, right? And if you remember, they voted Ambition as the mid laner, obviously not Faker. But I remember at the time, even in his rookie season, Faker was getting like the second most votes for mid. And I told someone, I won't say who, back then, like, bro, you almost let a rookie go to fucking All-Star. I said, he's a rookie. No matter how skilled he is, he could never actually be the best mid laner. Ambition's been like the best for fucking a year and a half or something. Like, he's on the best team. Like, what you'll see is, like, logically, the rookies will fail in the playoffs and they won't make it through when they get to Worlds. And, you know, he'll be shit hot in the regular season. Because think about, like, every fucking NFL star, like Lamar Jackson. When they get to the big playoff game, that's when the nerves will get to them. And that's, by the way, when if you face an Ambition, they'll grind you down and they'll beat you with veteran. And obviously, the joke is Faker was the ultimate outlier, so I was wrong. Actually, it turned out that probably was, relative to the history of the League of Legends game, the highest delta between number one and number two ever, and will probably never be matched. It's also the reason why, by the way, even though people hate to talk about this aspect too, that's why you should still mention people like Mad Life. Because, yeah, look, obviously Kerry is light years beyond Nathan Madlife ever did. But the point is, Madlife was doing it back when people were like, you can even do that? Like, I didn't even, and how would you do it? Mate, Madlife used to like blow people's minds. No one understood what the
Also,
fuck he was
support
doing.
was significantly weaker as a position when Mad Life was playing. So the fact that he could change games from that position was very unique. Whereas this was before passive gold
Yeah.
was introduced or any real
But here's the
way
way, Mad
to
Life is
get
based. Here's the
items on
analogy.
support.
If you know sports, Mad Life was like the hockey player Bobby Orr, because Bobby Orr is considered a GOAT candidate, but he was a defenseman, Monty, but he used to score all the fucking time and skate around everyone. Defenseman isn't supposed to do that back then. A defenseman, like every sport in the world, by the way, if you're really good, you get to play fucking up front, don't you? The defenseman obviously is usually the guy less skilled who's at the back. It's like, you know, it's hustle and team play. You don't be the star player from that position, but that's what they were doing. So no, the point is, obviously, yes, in the earliest period of the time, that's when the biggest gap exists. Also, on the thing you said about the practice tool, one, this is where, as you know, when people get annoyed but they don't have a reason, they go, why are you all so negative about Riot? Just watch the show in 2 years, dickhead. You'll find out they changed to something we said and then it was better. Like, spoiler, I told you all double limb years ago. It didn't come to like 3 years ago on MSI or something. I told everyone about this practice tool a million years ago. And here's the reason why. Because I remember getting to learn about Brood War in Korea. And famously, everyone who was a Zerg player, they had a custom practice map for the Mutalisk, where what you did is you were just chased endlessly by the Scourge, the anti-air unit of the Zerg. And so in ZVZ, it's really important to be mega with the Muter and to be able to kill the Scourge. So all they would do is practice this one mechanic all day long before they played the fucking warm-ups, mate. If they hadn't have done that and they'd have had to play a game of Brood War, like you're saying, you'd have to get past the first phase, you'd have to get to the production point that you can get to air attacks. By the way, that doesn't happen that off the fucking Zerg. You're doing all like hydralisk attacks and six pools and stuff. You have to get to that point, and then now you have to start practicing the skill. Like, mate, you just get like 1% of the amount of practice. Because again, so, like you're saying, it's like having to play a whole soccer match instead of just practicing free kicks or headers or something like that. You know, it's absurd how much you can level up if you can hone that. And by the way, Koreans especially are going to go crazy on a tool like that.
People who have been watching the show since the start will remember that I called it toxic, like toxic or positive toxicity, because Riot's excuse for not making the practice tool, and this was real, was they said people would be toxic. So instead of telling you to kill yourself or get cancer, which they would do when you were playing chat, they would instead say things like, go to the practice tool, which I said is way better than those other things. And also, if you're bad and you don't know the practice tool exists or there's a skill you should be practicing, it's actually good advice. So what is the toxicity here? Someone tells you to go practice your Lee Sin flash kicks? Like, what? And so they eventually just caved and made it. But it outrageous that it took as long as it did. And
Oh,
they tried to tell us that it would make player behavior on the ladder worse somehow. Can't be worse than it was.
What I
I'll tell
love
you
is though
that.
that it's the way they actually unironically did like the meme about how communists think about the world, where it's that famous image of like the kids trying to look over the fence illegally to the baseball game. But in their analogy, they didn't try and figure out a way the shorter guy could get the box. They just chopped off the legs of the taller guy. And they were like, there you go, both equal. That's what Riot did. Like, because the maddest part about that, by the way, this even is a real thing in the real world with some school boards, by the way. Some people do think that. There are people, Monty, who have, the most obvious thing about school that doesn't work in the like public school system in like your and my country is the idea that like if you're a genius at age 8, unless you are lucky enough to get found by some like gifted child program, if you just stay in state school, you can never get 4 years beyond because they won't give you the book. You'll just be ahead of the class and then you'll have to sort of like wait for people to catch up with, which you never will. Well, the obvious thing in that scenario you do is you wouldn't base it on age, would it? You'd base it on the ability. And if someone was a genius at 15, they'd be on 20-year-old maths. And if someone was shit at 15, they'd be on the maths for a 9-year-old. That'd be the logical way you'd do it. But there are people who actually argue that you can't do that. You can't give extra resources to the smart kid because then the dumb kid will fall further behind. And the problem you have with that is it's just no way to live, mate. Because as we're pointing out here, you would have a way worse League of Legends without a practice tool. You'd have a way worse League of Legends if, for example, like people hadn't upped their practice methods and all everyone did is play solo queue. Like that's another thing about the really, really old school. A lot of my favorite original players, mate, you remember those legendary CLG like streamed scrims where they were just arguing with each other. That couldn't be practice. That's not professional practice. They were just like, that was almost like some fucking Twitch rival shit where like half of it was the entertainment of them arguing about whether they're going to do the fucking dragon or not. Like that wasn't like, you can't imagine a Korean team practicing that way, with the coach and then doing the VOD review. It was nuts, mate. Like that wasn't professional.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you say about that. It's just the whole scene, the whole situation was wild. But it's important to have all this context because otherwise, I just feel like you can't properly evaluate players and their careers, and especially Faker's career and everything. It's just so frustrating because Faker is such an outlier in the history of esports that we want to celebrate him, but it's enraging when people try and celebrate him for the wrong reasons or tell me, the person who casted these games and lived through his accomplishments, that, oh no, he's better now. It's like, what the fuck are you even?
He actually already could have been the GOAT of all of esports if you just don't know the other games or you want to have the discussion. But that was like 6 years ago. You could already have that discussion, mate. Like these championship didn't do anything. It's also, by the way, I'll just do it because it'll trigger people, even though it'll already work for you. That's why, to me, the real sad tragedy is this, Monty. Brady, he really did have the Tom Brady career. He had the one where he got the rings at the end that people go, that makes him indisputably the GOAT. It's like the ones at the end are the least valuable ones. Look, it's the same story. Being clutch, I give mad props for that. Performing under pressure. By the way, figuring out your team and figuring out making other people shine. By the way, what used to trigger me, Monty, is if you ever want to really get that feeling back, it's been too long now. He's been retired, Brady. He's on the broadcast. He's even now done that bastard thing where they're all lovable because they don't compete anymore and they say all the right things and you go, damn it, he is pretty wholesome. But I'll tell you what will bring that fucking seething rage back, Monty, is all you need to do is pull up, type into YouTube, Rob Gronkowski highlights, right? Monty, there are fucking clips where he throws like a fucking like 5-yard shovel pass. Gronkowski breaks like 3 tackles, runs over a guy, like touchdown off a tight end of like, 50-yard run. And I'm supposed to just go, man. I'm supposed to just go, Brady has no help and he's just goated, bro. How's he doing it? Like, I'm supposed to do that, mate. Meanwhile, my boy A-Rod, Aaron Rodgers, I was watching him throw to people where it's like, none of these people ever made like a Pro Bowl. They're never going to be in a Hall of Fame. Like, it's the same fucking narrative, bro. I can't handle it.
It also completely ignores Aaron Hernandez, who obviously was a terrible criminal, but he also was an incredible tight end. But the combination of Aaron Hernandez and Gronkowski, if you watch those games in Brady's career, the most annoying thing is, like you say, because Gronkowski was just an undefendable player. So it was just free. It was just free. every time.
And I always tell people, think about that narrative for a second. So Tom Brady was the 199th pick and only got in the game because Bill Belichick let him in for that game when fucking Bledsoe got injured, and then was like, oh, there's something here though. Maybe I can use this guy. Used him as a game manager for 3 years, by the way. Then later, Rob Gronkowski, go look where he was drafted, bro. Another person that dropped way down. That's Belichick found him and picked him and brought him in. Like, listen, you can certainly make arguments at other things. There was times they had like Danny Amendola, just an all right wide receiver. Sure. But I'll tell you what, he did get him some cheat codes. And another thing that's mad underrated, if you ever watch Brady's career, is on the back end, by the way, at the Patriots, they're just getting unbelievable running backs for him, mate, that are just scoring like playoff touchdowns all over the place. It's nuts. Like, he had like 3 or 4 people that, like, if you ever go, they have like among the most playoff touchdowns ever for a Russian. Like, but they're fucking just on the Patriots. Like, that his coach did all that. Like, yes, Tom Brady threw them the ball, practice, kept them again. I'll give you all that. But the point is, it wasn't just him, and it's not a 1v1 sport, is it? So that's why I do think these narratives ruin it, mate.
That's also to go back to Slasher's point. That's the other annoying thing, is that when you compare him to Jordan, it's a little bit better because it's at least a 5-on-5 game where the starters play most of the game. To compare him to a hockey player or a football player is just completely wrong, because it takes way more players to actually win a hockey or football
hockey,
game.
Unironically, I think is the sport that is actually the hardest to win the championship as the best player, Monty. Like, the reason why, by the way, Wayne Gretzky the reason Wayne Gretzky, you have the line changes, you just play less time. You only play something like 25 minutes or something like that, because it's an exhausting game. And also, people have shit hot like defensive schemes and stuff. Like, if you ever go and look, the joke of Wayne Gretzky's career is he won all his titles at the beginning with the Oilers. Mate, he was mega for like 3 or 4 years after that. He never won the title again, though, unfortunately, because it's not like, but Michael Jordan has the ball in his hand every single time. Like, if he is, if he wants to, he can like force the game to go his way. Yeah, but you can't do that. And then, by the way, forget the NFL. Like, the NFL, mate, you can have the whole game taken away from you because like an edge rush and fucking ruined the game at the end.
Dan Marino.
Yeah. No, you can't.
Be Dan Marino.
That's why one of the coolest things about the NFL, Monty, even though in general they fall into the ring culture thing, like all the pros themselves will tell you Brady was the best ever, you'll be shocked how many NFL great quarterbacks all put Dan Marino on their Mount Rushmore. 0 rings, but they know, mate. If you ever go watch the tape, you're like, bro, he looks like he's playing now. He looks like Patrick Mahomes now, but that's like 1980. When, by the way, when the edge rusher is coming to take your head off your body if he gets there. Like, you should see how they sack motherfuckers back then, mate. There's no roughing the passer back then, homie. They intentionally rough the passer.
Mahomes just gets rocked to sleep by a linebacker.
Bro, so that happened in that Super Bowl against fucking... when Brady played against Aaron Donald almost got a sack, and then the fucking ref told him, like, don't push him so hard when you push him over. And all he did is like push him like that. Like you say, you're supposed to push them, then hold like, sleep. Oh, you didn't hit your head there, did you, Tom? Oh, I got you there. Okay, my bad, ref. Sorry, I was trying to tackle him or something. Fuck, it's mad, innit? I know. It's mad.
All right. We should talk about some other stuff now, because I've got to bring up
if you want. Oh no, you have a topic. Go for it.
I have a topic. Yeah, I wanted to talk about our Raycon listen up segment, because we've got to talk about this LCS shenanigan. And I just couldn't believe that. Well, I actually can really easily believe that they brought LCS back. People I saw were saying, of course, the popular thing is to put words into my mouth and say, well, Monty wanted them to combine the leagues. I mean, that's true. I did, but not like that, guys. Not like that. Not where you never have them compete against one another, so the Brazilian teams never get better. I said we should actually have a league like the one in Valorant, where they're in the same place constantly competing against each other, so that the Brazilian teams can get better. Because what did I cite? Oh, yes, I cited the example of the Overwatch League, where all the players came into one place, and actually it made the North American and European players very competitive with the Korean players as a result. And then after a year, we started seeing mixed rosters of Koreans and Westerners winning titles, and the skill really did even out when you were in the right environment. And I thought, well, they can bring in the Brazilian viewership. I also didn't say, let's nuke the LCS brand. I did say, let's nuke all the brands and make a super league. I still believe that. Actually, you don't nuke them. You just make them feeders like the ERLs.
How capricious and malicious these people are, Monty, that what they would hold you to is, I have a great idea. Then after Riot executes on it, they go, shit idea, obviously. It's like, what? That's like me going, oh, I've got a great idea for like a fucking piece of craftsmanship and wood carving. And then Lenny from Mice and Men made it. It's all smashed and fucking. I obviously meant a fucking artisan doing it, not just a fucking idiot. This is like when a little kid, mom tells them to do something. So they, they're like learned helplessness where you're like, no, what's it called? Weaponized incompetence. Where like you just do it wrong on purpose. Like, there you go, mom, I did it. It's all fucked up. Just so she won't tell you. That's like what Riot did it. Because Monty's whole premise, by the way, the entire mechanism of the whole thing before we even get to the mixed rosters was by combining the leagues, you would bring the Brazilian viewership to it. You never did that because you made it LTSL. So that you actually intentionally took away the best selling point of the whole fucking endeavor. And then you had the goal, are you ready to go? Viewership's down on LTNL. Think that about. I can't do it. You won't learn. You guys won't learn.
So what you guys need to listen up, though, is that they did bring the Brazilian viewership against all odds, but they nuked the English language viewership. And shout out to Raycon. I have the open earbuds here and the everyday earbuds here, right? Can't wear them, guys, because I have to be able to listen to myself right now. But they are great, and we'll talk about them. So shout out to Raycon. But what you guys need to hear is this, which is that from last year, the summer playoffs 2024 to the LTA finals, which are the equivalent of the summer playoffs in 2025, during the finals, the English language viewership fell 58%. So it was mostly Portuguese.
And it wasn't that high before, so it seemed worse. Yeah.
The concurrent viewership fell below 100K, the peak concurrent on the English language stream. And before everybody's like, well, Monty, does that include co-streams? Yes, it fucking includes co-streams. Includes everybody. And anybody who speaks the Englando under 100K, it fell 58%. I mean, you can see it on a lot of the streams. They'd have like 20K, maybe 15K concurrence during the regular season when I was checking in on it, in the warnings here in Korea, when I'd be answering emails. Basically, the LCS, killing the LCS brand completely nuked the English language audience. And we saw it too, because when I left Summoning Insight and Power Spike, there was a drop in viewership. And, I was obviously concerned about that. I clearly, some turnover was to be expected. But what I realized very quickly was it wasn't just us. It was Euphoria. It was The Dive. It was, it was also Hotline League. The drop in LCS viewership literally just caused Hotline League to stop existing and Travis to retire in League of Legends. Like, straight up. And it wasn't just the podcast. It was obviously the interview, viewership, everything about it. And so I think a lot of people, when they changed the brand, some of these people were probably OG viewers who are just kind of sticking around watching it through thick and through thin. I think it was just the last straw after all the other bullshit that Riot had pulled over the years, including telling us that streaming LCS on weekdays at noon Pacific was good because the data said there would be more viewership than on the weekends, when the real reason, of course, was they wanted to use the weekends for Valorant. This is just complete nonsense that they tried to pull. And like, I think a lot of people after all these years just got so fed up with this process. And probably some of you guys who are watching this show right now, maybe you're here for nostalgia reasons because I'm back on the show again. But I think, or you just like keeping up with the show, but you don't watch League of Legends anymore. But I've had a lot of feedback where people have just anecdotally told me, you're right, Monty, I did just leave because this was the exit ramp. This is how I get out of League of Legends. You changed the thing I liked, and now here you go. I'm not going to watch anymore, but maybe I'll pay attention to some of the content. But it caused a lot of people in English who speak English and who watch to step away, not only from the games, but from all of the content as well, which obviously is not something I want because it's bad for me personally, right? And I just don't think that LCS is ever going to recover from this. This was such an unforced error. Why change the name? Like, it's never been clear to me. Yes, the format sucked and there was minimal competition, but no one has ever been able to explain why you couldn't have a bracket that was just CB LOL versus LCS a couple times a year. Why is it that you had to change the name to LTA North and South and eliminate all the branding and the history and the love that people had for these things? Why is that necessary? And then you just revert it because of course you do. Because it obviously crashed your own language viewership. So I don't I just don't get what the necessity was to actually change the brand, because it ruins the history and identity that people have with
I'll
your
tell you what my
product.
obvious theory here is, Monty. It's just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. And if you want to
Sure.
extend the analogy, after we've rearranged the deck chairs, we're going to be having a band playing. And after that, we're going to have a raffle. And whoever wins gets this prize. Look, the Titanic's going down anyway. Because here's what I hate about it the most, Monty. Every one of these plebs that cheered when it got changed back were the same ones cheering and saying it was obviously correct to do all these changes. When they changed it from the weekend, Monty, everyone went like some bull. You know, when they bring those like fucking shill talking heads on the news to just agree with whatever the current changes and go, yes, well, the economy does need to do that. Like they were all doing that. So basically, when they changed it from the weekend, every dickhead goes, well, that's obvious because they're trying not to compete with the other leagues then, and it'll open up space. And besides, Monday Night Football and Thursday Night Football, and you know, people watch sports of the week now too. And you know, this isn't a thing anymore. The same person, when they changed it back, great news. It's going back to the weekends. This is awesome. It's like, I'm sorry, you can't just do that over and over again. Like, it can't be good both ways. One of them, at some point, someone has to go, we were totally wrong on that last one. Because half the shit they've changed here, Monty, I do think it's just changing deck chairs on the Titanic. Like, the real reason it wasn't succeeding isn't the idea it wasn't on Thursday or something like that. You know, look, it's not a bad idea to try if you have some data for it, but I always took it as they knew the number was going down anyway, so try anything. And now they've even figured out a hack I never expected, which was when you slightly ruin it, you can just bring it back. And then even though the number will overall be lower than it was before, it might have a tiny spike and you get to go, see, I succeed. We're on essentially, Monty, we're on the quarterly earnings meta now of League of Legends, you know. Well, it's not about the whole history of the game.
It's also that they've now run out of co-streamers. You know, Cadril like ditched co-streaming North American League of Legends.
By the way, you think he'd do that if there was potential to get like mad viewership? Of course he wouldn't.
So like the thing about it is that, you know, with Dom gone, he was one of the major co-streamers. Now he's going to be coaching. There is, you know, they've been basically just like kicking the can down the road for a long time. And to their credit, guys, I really do believe that they should try things. Like, their ideas are obviously stupid, but they should be experimenting, because doing nothing is not an option. Absolutely. Because the real reason that there are fewer viewers is that no young people play League of Legends in North America, and there isn't any viewership pipeline, and the game is so impossible to approach because they didn't ever bother to put in a proper tutorial or onboarding system or new player friendly experience. And now there's 170 champions in the game and everybody's an asshole, and kids don't think it's cool. They play fucking Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft. That's what they play. So
when you say though, Monty, to change things though, you mean things that can tangibly, like, essentially, here's what you need, Monty. You don't need, I'll use the same analogy. In this case, what you need to do is either get on the lifeboats already on the Titanic, or you have to change the direction of the Titanic. You can't just arrange the deck chair. So what you need to do now, if you're NA, is you need a drastic gamble that it's fucking American. You have to swing for the fences, boys. We're in the last inning. I don't even fucking know the sport, whatever. I figured it was a bit like cricket, right? You have to go for the home run on this one. And I don't know, are the bases loaded? I don't fucking know. I only know about baked potatoes being loaded. I don't know your sport. I've never watched it. So the point, I just know steroids are awesome when you use them in that sport, allegedly. So all I know is this.
They were way better than not using steroids.
If you're going to change something, Monty, it'd be like what we said earlier. It isn't the let's have Brazilians. It's let's just try putting the Brazilian viewership on. Let's see what that does. And by the way, then let's play to them. Then let's do LTA like teams differently, but let's do a rivalry. Let's have it like the fucking Brazilian team against the best one. Let's do all the fucking shit talking on Twitter. Or I'll give you another example. Let's do stuff that we've speculated on past episodes. Like, you know, you don't have to have the same rules in every region because you're actively trying to benefit one region to grow it. LCK doesn't need this. So I'll tell you something we've said many, many, many times. How about no import rules for NA? It's just a free-for-all. You can get anyone you want. That would completely change the paradigm, bro. Now you could do all sorts. And by the way, because here's one of the things that tilts me the most about the LCS and LTA topic. This is an example of where people who have a dogshit agenda will ruin everything for the sake of their agenda. They'll do that fucking Solomon and that little baby thing where they're like, just cut it in half. Fuck it. I want my half. Like, even though at the end, no one has a baby. So, you know, Monty, people are still to this day in 2025, when LTA is almost dead, LCS is almost dead, they are still arguing the most important thing is how many North American players are in the teams. Motherfucker, that is a topic that should have been put to pasture about 9 years ago.
By the way, I will tell you the number one thing that would help LCS. if you're not going to make drastic changes that make the league really crazy, the number one thing that will help is them having a successful international team, whether or not it contains
Course.
entirely
You
international
sort of
players.
saw it with FlyQuest. That basically did do
Yep.
it, Monty. Everyone
Yep.
was mad hyped for that one team. If you look at it, it's basically Europeans
Almost
plus
beat Gen
European
G.
coaches. Yeah, that was the storyline everyone followed. They didn't, despite what they tell you, care that much about Paolo Fox's journey. I mean, Paolo Fox told you himself, no one gives a fuck. Like, I'm sorry. Here's the problem they have, Monty. I've always said it about Americans specifically. Americans love a winner that's American. He has to be a winner, you idiot. He has to be double lift. But people forget this, and you know this, Monty. When Doublelift was fucking sick but didn't win, they used to mock him and say he was shit. That's American culture. So it's right, it's true. If you actually could have a Doublelift again, by the way, you could have had it in a Jojo or maybe a Blabber had a chance to do this, right? Then everyone would ride with him because he's American, but it's because he's really good at the game too, bro. And he has to have a chance like Jojo to mix up internationally. I know what you mean. No one wants it. Nobody was riding hard for Golden Glue. They weren't. Everyone wanted Jensen instead. You know what I mean? Like nobody was. They just weren't. They weren't boys. It's fake. It's like 10 people on Twitter want those players in, and half of them are probably friends with those players. If I'm being honest, you know, all the people bemoaning like the Dorkler angle. Look, Dorkler should probably be in the league, but you were never going to win Worlds with Dorkler. I'm not even hating saying that. He could tell you that. I'm sure he fucking admit himself. He seems pretty level-headed.
And also,
guy.
you guys liked Dokla because he took funny selfie videos at Worlds. You know, he did have a good performance,
and because he had the
let's be real
comeback
about why you liked
story.
him.
Yeah, he also had the like movie story of like they come back to the game. That's just some sports telling. Yeah, classic sports narrative.
But yeah, I mean, there's a reason why he wasn't picked
You
up.
pointed out in the past, another obvious angle you could do is you probably have to wait for LEC to have more problems. You do the Super League. By the way, if League of Legends, the game, ever ends and they really let all the regions die except Korea and they don't do a Super League in the West, then you are the dumbest motherfuckers in the history of the game. You are so impossibly stupid, especially if you've ever watched just the model that Counter-Strike is. It's basically only fucking EU with certain NA times. Like, what are we doing? Like, that's the whole game. So the idea you never exploited that, you're just a lunatic. It's right there. Also, in the modern day, if you could ever combine those leagues, motherfucker, could you imagine actually bringing like a really good NA team and having them play like those KC fans, MCOY fans? People would go nuts for these games, bro.
And by the way, I truly believe, based on not only the history of League of Legends, but other esports, I mean, we've seen it in League before. You know, a European team almost won an OGN title, guys. It's not even like they probably should have won an OGN title, for being honest. I took it to game 5, probably should have won game 5. But the point is that the gap actually used to be less. Imagine the early days of Moscow 5. The gap definitely used to be less. And part of that was because the teams were able to all go to Asia and practice and live there, where I really believe it's not some sort. I don't think that European, like Caps is a fundamentally worse player than some of the best Korean mids. He just can't get the best practice. And if he was in.
By the way, there will be a topic we can discuss later about the Kespa Cup that has this exact thing here. But before we get to that, I want to know this. I'm intrigued by those Raycon earbuds you had earlier, but you didn't mention how I might purchase them or perhaps what the price point would be.
That's right. So the new Raycon earbuds actually just released these open earbuds, which don't go into your ear canal. That's more your thing. They wrap around the outside of your ears and sit on the outside. But I took them to the gym. They still stay on perfectly fine. So if that's your jam, they're the new Essential Open earbuds. And also they're off 20% for the holidays right now. So if you're looking to get a present for somebody, I may recommend these earcons to you. And they also still have the everyday earbuds, and these actually have active noise cancellation and transparency mode, which for the price point is pretty nuts. And I've worn these on airplanes, worn them for the gym, worn them on buses, on subways. The noise cancellation works extremely well. It also has multi-point connectivity, so you can connect to multiple devices via Bluetooth at the same time. So the value is crazy. Like they've got over 3 million customers that have been happily reviewing these products, and they're half the price as many of the major brands because they're not paying for celebrity endorsements. They're paying for us F-tier celebrities instead. And if you don't like them, they have a 30-day happiness guarantee, so you can actually just send them back. But honestly, great gifts for the holidays or great stocking stuffers, whatever you guys want. So I've been really enjoying mine. I use them absolutely all the time. We only endorse products to you that we use ourselves. These are my main earbuds that I use when I'm walking around. So the Essential Open earbuds here for the holiday season, selling fast. Raycon audio products are up to 20% off all of them this holiday season. Go to buyraycon.com/LFN Open. That's OPEN to save on Raycon audio products site-wide. Order by December 15th to guarantee delivery by Christmas, so your gifts don't show up late. So there you go. They also come in a lot of crazy colors too. Like, I'm boring, so I like black, but they have tons of colors if you want something that pops a little bit more.
You know, there's that weird thing where it goes into that famous quote that goes, history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And so famously, actually in fashion, bizarrely, we keep getting this thing where, like, not only do past decades come back, but there's almost like a comparison point to like a similar resonant time frame on the last century, etc. It's the same in league, bro. Because here's how you know we actually are at the beginning of something insight again, bro. Because wait a minute, Monty, one of the biggest newses of the off season is we're going to have Western top teams go to Korea and play. Are you ready, Monty? This will blow your mind. In sort of like an invitational tournament in Korea with the best Koreans. And that could like level them up and change everything. We 2012 again, boys. Is fucking Loco going to be there? And Ball Trap fucking Valdez doing it. So what are we talking about here? Like Kespa cocktails banging it this weekend, mate.
Yeah. So by the way, why wasn't this allowed previously? Because just to be clear, guys, when I was coaching CLG, I floated the idea of sending CLG to the OGN winter split because there was no LCS during the winter split in Korea. So there wasn't any conflict, but Riot would not allow teams to participate in it. This was also before franchising, so there wasn't even that excuse. So again, it's one of those things of, why couldn't we have had this, like Demacia Cup participation, LCK Cup participation? Why couldn't we have the Red Bull tournaments that you guys all seem to enjoy? Why couldn't we have these things? What the fuck was the reasoning behind it? What was it? And yeah, sure, in LCK Cup, probably a lot of the teams, the Korean teams, are not going to play their starting rosters. You know, they'll probably just mess around. But it's still objectively good for the Western teams to be boot camping in Korea, which many of them would be doing during this time period anyway, except now they have something fun to compete in. Guys, so many teams from the West would go to Korea after Worlds and just boot camp and then go home for the holidays and then go back to practice before the league started. And yes, the practice is not that effective because all the patch changes that are always very significant from year to year aren't in yet, but it's a good way to have start to gel with a new roster, start to see what you've got, maybe identify some strengths and weaknesses. It still has value. The competition is fun. We don't have anything else. So yeah, I think it's great, but why couldn't we have had this before? That's the first thing I thought about, Monty.
This is also just the way my brain works. When I see this, I think, wow, cool. It ties into a lot we're saying, but I also immediately think of all the missed opportunities. I think of all those great Western teams, bro, that if you could have sent them to one of these before a season when they've just made a roster change or right after they've had a big Worlds run, that would have popped so fucking hard. You even think of some of the squads that like failed, like when those like TSM super teams failed. Yeah, but that was obviously the pressure of Worlds. Imagine they'd gone to a Kespa Cup afterwards and actually like beaten some of the like, you know, third and fourth best Korean teams. Then you'd be like, oh, fucking hell, okay, there is something there. Like it would only have made it more hype, bro. I can't even see what the downside would have been.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's extremely confusing. I'll be watching some of it though, for sure. Like I'm super curious to see how Western teams compete and what the new Korean rookies are. It's just like good, light, off-season friendly competition.
And also, if anything, just like those Red Bull events and the KC events, if anything, it's more likely you'll get the upset over the Koreans now because they are somewhat fucking around. This is the one time actually where they're not going giga hard. Like you can tell, like they know in those matches.
They'll be playing academy rosters.
Yeah, you play to the crowd as well, and you try like British way. I don't know if they'll do it in Kespa Cup because you might consider it disrespectful, but I know there's been times T1 when they did those Red Bull events, mate, did like role swaps and shit. And had people play top who were like the fucking ADC or whatever, just for the lulz. Yeah, just play to the crowd.
Yeah, I don't know, but it is exciting, and I'm glad they're making some of these changes, and this obviously goes into the other changes that they've made in terms of the formats, right? With LCS and LEC now having the same format, so that Western fans will be able to follow it. I still think I didn't hate LCS's format with the same passion that other people did. Like I think it could have been executed better, as almost anything with Riot can be. But the selection format is something that Thorin and I were using with Flashpoint that we're both big fans of from the StarCraft Brood War days of the MSL. They just did it badly. But I do like teams picking each other and trying to build those rivalries. It's just, again, Riot didn't understand how to structure that in a compelling way. And there were a lot of flaws within that system. To put this in perspective, when I was designing the Flashpoint format for Counter-Strike and we were doing these group draw shows, I literally had to employ a PhD mathematician to help me identify all of the different possibilities so that the system couldn't be gamed and that it would actually be the most exciting system possible. And so it took work, to do that properly, which obviously Riot was not about to do. But that's why you kind of ended up with a lame selection system for it as opposed to a really interesting one. But I think the premise of it was actually quite good. And so I personally lament that we're going back to single round robin best of threes, but at least they're best of threes now throughout the entire year. And we'll get into the Worlds format in a little bit because it's still absolutely rage inducing. And so I guess Worlds is now the only competition in League of Legends that's going to have best of ones. Like, what the fuck is that? To be discussed
CS now,
momentarily.
boys. We CS now, boys. Because if you don't know the CS circuit, the only tournament will be a one step. Is the major, believe it or not. I know.
So like, are best of ones good for League of Legends? If they are, then why don't you run them domestically? And if they're not, why are you running them at the premier tournament? It makes no sense. But I think like the system that they're using has a lot more clarity to it. But again, I'm not sure the opaqueness of the format was really the primary issue. I think a lot of the problems have been that the LCS has just been moving days every year, like we talked about earlier, whether it's a weekdays, weekends. Oh, we randomly have a week off here because it's Valorant playoffs. And the reason why Riot does this is they want to pay their esports broadcast staff. They only want to pay them one time. They don't want to pay overtime. And they don't want to hire additional freelancers to run a different broadcast. So
we'll never move from LA. Days. We have to just remember the number one rule, and I don't know if God wrote it on like a fucking stone tablet, Monty, but the LCS shall be in LA always. Like, fucking hell. I don't get it, Nate. Unironically, I'd be in like Cleveland by now or something. You know what I mean? I don't give a fuck.
By the way, this is I'm just going to destroy a bunch of ridiculous fan narratives. People are like, this is what people love to say, Thorin. People love to say, well, the teams have all these facilities in Los Angeles that they built out. First off, which teams are you talking about? As far as I can tell, you are literally only talking about Team Liquid. Okay. Yeah. Some of the other teams have offices, but they're not like the Alienware training facility for Liquid, which is an actual, like, more custom built out space. 100 Thieves, but they're gone now. Remember, yep. TSM was doing something, but they're gone now. I can just tell you other teams, some of them still have team houses. Cloud9 literally just uses a series of team houses in the same like multi-block radius and part of Los Angeles, where I'm not going to tell you where they are, but they're just big houses. And by the way, they could just wait till the end of those leases and lease cheaper houses in Texas or Chicago, period. And the rest of the teams are just kind of in commercial real estate. And if you think that, oh, what's the investment? The teams would love to get out of this, by the way, because it would mean that they spend way less money. Like, yeah, sure,
you eat an L. Go down, bro. They're all going to
eat an L in the short term for your lease, but in the long term, it would be so much cheaper. And that's only the commercial places they've leased for the teams. That doesn't include the housing you're paying for the players, which is much easier to escape from because they're probably only on 1-year leases.
Absolutely.
And then you're saving money there. You're saving money on food. You're saving money on staff. You're saving money everywhere. So I don't really understand. They probably have nicer facilities for cheaper in Texas, in Dallas, right? You could just play it out of the esports arena. The reason why it's there, and some of the owners may like it there just because they still are sitting on a giant war chest of venture capital and they want to live in LA themselves. That's possible.
They can still do that though if they're the owner.
But also the other thing that doesn't make sense is that Riot has outsourced much of the production to Seattle. It's not even in LA, like the control room. So it's literally a bunch of freelance camera operators, a couple of producers, and a bunch of Riot people who run the league who want to be in LA because of reasons. And I just don't understand it because it's not even the flagship league in the world by a long shot. More people who speak English watch LCK than LCS at this point in time. So what's the point?
Slow
What's the
key.
point of
That
all
is
this talk?
that's the one thing I do love, Monty, is if you did go back to the beginning of some of the insight, that's based as fuck. Because back
Yeah, it's
then,
great.
it was just everyone pretending they watched LCK. And, there was like a super hardcore contingent, but there was loads of people who did only know LCS and only know EU LCS and thought we were just exaggerating when we said how good the Koreans were. But one thing that is cool actually is the people who really like League of Legends do watch LCK. I feel like everyone does.
Yeah, because all the casuals are gone because the game is too hardcore at this point in time. It's too complicated. So the people who have stuck around are the hardcore people, and they watch the best games, period. And this is also why it makes no sense to have LCS and LEC casters who both know less about the Asian teams and are also literally watched less than the LCK English casters be in the finals casting the games. They don't know the teams as well, and they are actually just objectively less listened to
Do you want a good example, buddy? This will bum you out a little bit, but a classic example of how to live within the Riot system is to be the policeman in your own head and to self-censor yourself before you dare think the thought that not all right movie Equilibrium could like collapse your whole worldview and make it so you had to escape the tyranny. I just did a recent reflections with Brendan Valdez, the longtime caster of LCK, and basically in the interview I asked him the obvious question, which is, you've barely ever worked any Riot invitationals, internationals, like you've done like a group stage here, or you did like part of an MSI or something, but he's almost, I don't think, like, principally, he's never come close to having a playoff game at Worlds or something. And he even starts by going, like, yeah, I used to sort of feel like it was bad or unfair that, like, I do all these Korean games and then like it'd be Korea versus Korea in the playoffs, but then I don't get hired. But then you can see like in the back of his head, like the little Riot fucking censor guy reaches forward, like, we're just gonna pull your lever, and he just explains, well, like, that makes sense in some way. It's like, whatever, bro. What?
By the way,
you're nailing it. Keep going. You're right. You should be doing it.
I'll strengthen my friend Brendan Valdez's argument here for him, which is to say that also he has probably cast more games. Probably has more broadcast hours than most of the Western casters at this point in time.
Sure.
Because you just get more reps in Korea. There's just more games and you're on more of the time. So it's not only like you are literally watched more in the English language, you also have more broadcast experience. So what's the angle? What's the angle? And of course the angle is that I'll just tell you, the casters who are in LA just get hired for the entire year up front, including the international events. So Riot just gives them a contract that includes Worlds at the beginning and fuck everybody else. That's what happens.
I've got an angle for you that you might appreciate. Do you know this thing that happened? I think it was last year, mate, where there was this big push, because you saw they even made a commercial for it for TV, where they had all these famous actors who were from Texas. So it would be like Matthew McConaughey and Billy Bob Thornton. It was a bunch of people like this, right? Well, I think they're all from Texas, basically. And the whole thing was, I believe they like did something with the legislature in the state of Texas to encourage the idea that people could like flee Hollywood and make movies in Texas instead, because they're like, think about well, wide open spaces. You have all this fucking place you can build a studio cheaply. It's actually the most underrated thing about America, if people don't know. I first went to Texas when I went to America. So I never understood all this shit people in LA and New York are about with the rent. Because I was going to people's houses that were just on those brand new housing areas in the middle of nowhere you drive to. And they'd have some goddamn house for like 100K. And I'd be like, holy fuck. And so what happened essentially is, the idea is if the state does something like they tell people who make movies, you get like a 10% tax or whatever off your people are going to do it. People are going to think about it. I would unironically do something like that. Think about how you had this story 2-3 years ago where Macron from France, the literal like president of France or whatever you call that title, was saying openly, we want to have the international and the CS major and world. We want it to be in France. That's because they understand tourism and like the world economy. If you were a real smart cookie at Riot, at the top level, you must have someone at an executive position that could go and meet with like a governor of a state or something. Go to like I say, one of the ones that would have no esports now, and tell them we can figure out a way if you can meet us on the business side where we can have events in your state.
Thorin, I literally had a phone call with the governor of Colorado about possibly moving Flashpoint to Colorado. And I'm not Riot Games. If I could do it, they can definitely do it. Right. Yeah. It's not that big of a deal.
Especially when you at least try.
They've literally had LCS finals in an NFL stadium in Houston. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
no small thing. And they're putting, I mean, hilariously, they already announced this, but they're putting 90% of worlds in Texas next year, which is why I tweeted about the LCS moving. It's like, so obviously the reason why they scheduled worlds the way they did, and actually, I mean, the venue in Texas that they used for this is the venue they used this year as well. And it's the venue we use for Overwatch League. It is actually a very good venue, to be fair. It's a really good esports venue, the one in Allen. But the reason why they're putting worlds there, every other world's, oh, it's moving here, moving there, everywhere. It's because it's cheap, guys, because it's cheap. They don't want to move. They're cutting costs. So if they're cutting costs and worlds has to be the most prestigious tournament has to be 90%, except for what was it? The final. I think it's just the finals at Madison Square Garden, right? It's literally just the finals, or it's the semis. Is it the semis as well? Maybe it's the semis as well. I might be misremembering off the top of my head.
ChatGPT claims it's just, or whatever the AI overlay in Google says it's just the grand finals in New York. Everything else up to the semis,
I thought that's what I remember.
In Texas, apparently.
Yeah. So like the point is that now they don't even go other places for quarters. They don't go other places for semis. It's literally just 2 locations because they're trying to save money. They are trying to save money. So if they're trying to save money, why is LCS still in LA for the vast majority of the year? Why is VCT in LA for the vast majority of the year?
By the way, I did live there for a while, but I didn't negotiate these things. Is rent mental in LA? Is it one of those places where it's just bonkers?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Like, to what extent? Like, I'll give you, like, if we did pick somewhere, and we're picking somewhere on the East Coast, say we just in Chicago, what would you think the difference would be?
Oh, Chicago's cheap, man. Chicago is actually very cheap. I don't know what the rent in Chicago would be, but in LA, it's not weird to pay like $4,000 for like a 2-bedroom apartment. I would say.
Fucking hell. That should be like the penthouse suite of a fucking skyscraper or something.
I mean, let's just put it this way. Your mortgage on a giant house in Texas would probably be under $4,000. So, yeah, I mean, it's expensive. So yeah, I mean, it just doesn't, it doesn't make any sense. And like, it just boggles the mind because in some ways they are really trying to cut costs, but if it might affect the LCS people who live in LA, no, you can't possibly do that. Meanwhile, if you just said LCS is in Texas next year, everybody move or find a new job, they would all move. Obviously.
I swear, I'm going to be really rude and selfish here, so don't know why I gave that disclaimer. I think part of the reason why, for real, Monty, is probably loads of the Riot people who make the decision want to stay in LA. They just want to live in LA.
That's the only reason.
They want to be all the parties.
That's the only reason.
Oh, it's cool. Hey, check out this taco stand. They don't want to have to move to do the esports.
I mean, to be fair, Dallas does suck, so...
The problem I've found with Texas is the main issue with Texas is so big, you have to drive everywhere. Like, bro, I tell you what did frazzle my brain. This is why I got it's 100K for that house in the middle of nowhere. So people were like, you want to go for food? I was like, yeah, sure. Why are we getting in a car? We have to drive 20 minutes to go to, and when you go to the fast food
most
place,
American cities,
that's in the middle of nowhere. Like, it's because I was thinking, like, where's downtown? There is no downtown. What are you talking about? Like, you get a car and drive everywhere. Every person does have a Dodge pickup truck. It's not even a mean. It's mad.
I mean, even in LA, it's like that. It's hard to, there are some walkable neighborhoods in LA, but I mean, really, you would only find that in
but I love the hard way, Monty. I tried where I come from. You walk everywhere. Also, I'm cheap. I come from the Northeast, mate. You don't fucking waste money on a taxi. So I've tried walking some places. I've tried going to people's houses. It's only a 1.5 kilometers away, Monty. What I learned is this. The essential detail to living in LA is you have to be at the financial threshold where you never have to walk under certain bridges.
Yep.
Because if you walk under that bridge, your whole worldview collapses and you're in demolition man, motherfucker. Like, when I learned the hard way, mate, there's a reason why that route looks really quick. No other motherfuckers walking through there, because I'm going through and I'm seeing, the fucking crazy old lady with the fucking, with the pram with nothing in it, and also I'm seeing the guy like, well, it's like my dick for heroin. Like, I'm seeing all that shit. I'm like, oh my God, this is what that LA is like. My Lord. My Lord. That sobered me up real quick, homie. Holy shit. I have a topic we haven't addressed, by the way. Listen, this is classic Summoning Insight. If you've ever seen, I have an ident for my YouTube channel where Sideshow, obviously he is on the Valorant shows on our channel here. well, not on this one, but on the other YouTube channel. He's part of LFN. I got him back in the day when he was an Owlcaster to do an intro, an ident. So his ident he chose was like him pretending to look up the definition of podcast. And he's like, podcast, discussion with like banter and jibes, where the guests aren't even introduced until 10 minutes into the episode. Because, you know, we were famous for just starting the episode. And we're not like the fucking dive or something. We don't have like an agenda. We don't hit that. We don't have D-God. Like D-God is actually excellent at hosting and going from point to point and reading the ad. But we do it like free association style. So one thing we were remiss to mention is you're not just back, Monty. There's a guy missing from the show. Where in the world is Yamato canon? And I will admit, we never said it on the last episode because sadly he didn't tell me till after the episode, but he ain't doing some of the insight anymore. Apparently he's going to be back potentially in the future, but yes, he's going to do what Tutorial is, and he's not here, right?
Yeah, he'll be back. But yes, Yamato, I think rightfully was.
We can't just affect him out of the episode. Like, well, you're not Monty. Always hosted somebody. Like, he was here for a while. He's doing all year.
So Yamato will be back. But the thing is that he wants to focus on coaching Los Ratones for their winter LEC run. So totally reasonable. Yeah, he will be back, guys. So don't worry about that.
And as someone who is in your position, Monty, it's tricky to be the coach and then also try and talk about that team on the fucking show without simultaneously giving some word about the team, but also being a show piece of shit. It's really hard, right?
And also doing the off season is one thing, but especially when the season starts again. And, this show in particular is so in depth that it's very hard if you're not watching all the regions sufficiently to discuss them for 3 hours or more. So yeah, I think he felt that was going to be quite a bit to ask for this time he's going to be coaching, but he will be back. He will be back after winter, just to be clear. And by the way, I do want to mention, because you mentioned it, Thorin, I do want to talk about what I've been doing a little bit, just so people understand like where my efforts have been at. Yeah, dealing with my kids. But if you guys, as Thorin mentioned, I don't know if you've mentioned it on the show previously, but we do have a Valorant show called The VOD Fathers now, which is on the Last Free Nation Valorant show. That is TMB, Shio, and Sideshow, which is great. And we also debuted some really cool new tech on that, which is going to be rolling out across many of our other shows soon. So you can look forward to that. We brought on 6 on 6, which is the biggest Rainbow Six podcast with Intero and Fett and Mint. And they actually, if you guys, they just released an episode with M80, who won the major in Rainbow Six. So they had a bunch of the players from that as guests on. That show has been doing very well. We are about to bring in 2 Dota shows, so keep an eye out for that. These are existing Dota shows that we are absorbing. We are probably going to be making a Rift-bound show if you guys are into TCGs soon with some people that you know. So we're trying to spin up into some tabletop games, but a lot of my work has been on the sponsorship side and to getting these other shows started. If you guys like content with me in it, we started the Last Free Nation gaming channel where we're starting to do gaming reviews. So me, Rich's Wrath, Wolf, Nymira. Oh shit!
That's so far. That's pretty good. Who else?
Yeah.
Doa, is he in it?
And Doa, yeah, of course, Doa.
There you go. I think it has to be Doa, surely.
Yeah. So there were 5 of us who did a Ghost of Yote playthrough. So if you guys like,
it's all modern games as well, right? It's modern.
No.
I think it will also play like Secrets of Mana or something like that.
It will also be classic games. It will also be classic games.
Maybe I can get that request in there. Then.
So basically, the way we're running the gaming channel is so we had 5 people like stream and play through Ghost of Yote. I did a separate video that's 12 minutes long. That talks about the historical accuracy. So for that, I literally flew to Japan, climbed Mount Yote, filmed myself climbing Mount Yote, and then like showed my footage versus what it looks like in game. I read multiple books on the history of Hokkaido in Japan and Ainu people.
I only saw a little clip of this, but I realized you actually just fucking tricked us all and you double up the content. I wondered why on that Exuma episode of LFN movies, you're just going on and on about like Japanese history. I'm like, what the fuck cares about this? It's because you've just been doing it right at this exact time. You've been playing that game and researching it. Yeah. That's why to you it was all relevant, like in a ship, like a drive, and then the thing with the samurai. I'm like, what the fuck? Who's been reading this? Like, this is what? You just doubled up,
So
didn't you? Okay.
well, I also found it interesting, and I knew some of that in advance. But yes, I mean, so basically, guys, I went off to Japan and filmed that, and then read a bunch of books, and we released this like historical accuracy video. And then what we're gonna do for this new show that we have called Post Game Clarity, great name, come up with by Adadian, our editor. He So what we're going to do is it's not always going to be the same people on the show. Like as new games come out and as we expand the LFN network, people are going to have different interests. So we're going to try and like pull people into the games that have specific interests for them. And so we'll kind of have a rotating cast. But the point of this show is a lot of reviews that you see or a lot of discussions come out really fast after the game is released or even before the game is released because people are trying to, but it's all very shallow and you can't do spoilers. So this is going to be more like what we do at LFN Movies, which is like deep analysis of storyline and discussion of game mechanics. And so that's why it's called Post Game Clarity. So we won't only be doing new games, we will also be doing classic games like that people were really into and want to have a discussion on. We already recorded some stuff for like the 30th anniversary of Chrono Trigger. So we're doing some I think interesting stuff on that channel. It'll be really different than other content that's out there right now. So
everyone, Thorin just got a new PC and it's shit hot. So you're all done fucked up now. He might actually
be reviewing games
an
now.
esports game for the first time in about 25 years. Exactly. Maybe I'll even be on there giving my shit opinions about a different game. There you
go. So yeah, there's a bunch of this content that we're releasing and we're expanding into. And we're bringing a lot more people onto the network. I also have been doing my own cooking content and like cooking streams. So if you guys head over to YouTube, Continue Cooking. It's a little bit slow over there right now because I'm retooling a bunch of the content directions, but I have a very cool streaming setup for that. So it's also on Twitch and at MonteCristo and YouTube at GG MonteCristo.
And also, I will say, I saw some of the dishes you made, and one of the most underrated things, actually, Monty, is if everyone's had delicious Korean food, you will naively think things like, "Oh, I couldn't make bulgogi." You absolutely can. If you've got an Asian supermarket near you, you can make it like 90% like the restaurant. I'm telling you, like for real. So I would check some of those out because some of those are like banger dishes, mate, to make on your own.
Yeah, and so I do have a bulgogi recipe up there. That's very good. Other Korean recipes, other tons of different kinds of food. I did a video for also when you talk about doubling up. So for Ghost of Yota, I did a video of cooking Hokkaido cuisine. So I like cook a dish that would have been made in 1600, and then I cook like modern Hokkaido cuisine.
Like what? What would
it was a venison stew.
Okay. I didn't even know that. Okay, I guess they would have venison. Fair enough. Okay.
It was Ainu. It's an Ainu recipe. Okay. And then I made a soup curry, which is a modern Hokkaido dish with like lamb chops. Excellent. And then I made like a fusion. So I made venison katsu. So it's like a modern Japanese technique with old ingredients. So that's pretty cool. If you guys like that kind of stuff. So anyway, doing the Continue Cooking stuff, and running the company. Should be a bunch more sponsors and more expansion.
Yeah, if anyone wants to know what Monty's been doing, you know how like last episode there was like 6 ads. That's what Monty's been doing. You know how the LCS has fuck all ads. That's where LCS done fucked up. You know, we told them all those years, Monty, and they were like, "Well, do you know you're just a guy from the cheap seats? Oh, just doing what you can't do. Don't worry about it. We'll just keep doing what you can't do. You watch us. We're perks now. Watch us."
Yeah, sorry about the 6 ads. We will not have that many ads. Sometimes mistakes get made, guys.
Listen, I'm not sorry. Thorin's not at all sorry for the 6 ads. I think after all these years, my 10 plus years on Twitter, I do admit
I do admit I get tilted when people are like, I can't believe how many ads are on this show. Meanwhile, me, man who watched network television, in my childhood, it's like, guys, we literally have 1 2-minute ad every hour of content. Are you joking? And we try and make it fun for you. And we try and make it things that you'll actually like.
If you watch like a show on the 2 big channels that have the ads, ITV and Channel 4 in the UK, I think it's every 15 minutes as an ad bit. That's why if you ever watch the show online, you'll see it flashes to a card of like the show, then the ad would have been there, and then it comes to the card and flashes back out. And they even have to set up the structure of the storytelling like that, bro. They can't have the scene last like 25 minutes. Like it has to be cut right there and then come back to the
Remember that half-hour TV shows back in the day were 22 to 24 minutes long, which is like
Seinfeld and stuff like that is the length it is, mate. Exactly. There
are 6 times as many ads.
That's why in Seinfeld he tells it. They have that little bit where he does
Per
the
hour,
stand-up
at least.
bit to come in and out. And remember, like that was like the way to get around it to make you not feel so annoyed. Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, also we try and actually tell you about things that we use ourselves or are good, which I'll do right now because it's a great segue. Because we're back with Aura, by the way, guys. And Aura,
Yes.
I've said this before when we were doing Aura last year, is that this is something I owned before we had them. This is something that I had already bought 3 Aura frames, so one for myself, one for my parents, and one for my wife's
I
parents.
think I've given away 4 Aura frames now, Monty. I'm on.
Yeah,
I'm up
exactly.
to like 4 plus.
So the thing is like
And
the
also,
reason why
I'll even tell you another reason why I've given away so many is when I've given them to some people, family, but then the others go, "Where can I have one of those?" Like, fuck, all right, fucking hell, everyone wants one. When everyone sees it in action, bro, everyone wants one.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, the reason I did it is because obviously my wife and I have kids and we all live in different places. So when you upload a picture of my family, it goes to my kids' grandparents' frames so that they can see their grandkids and they get to see new pictures every time we upload and they can store thousands of pictures. I also really appreciate that it doesn't have some kind of bullshit subscription. So you don't just continue to pay for it. You literally buy the frame, which looks super nice, and then it just stores pictures forever, right? And it just comes from your phone. All you do is upload into the little app, designate which frames those pictures are attached to, and that's it. So if you have relatives in another place, or even, I mean, we've said this before, but even if you just have buddies and you just have stupid internet memes on there, you guys can basically just send each other surprise memes through your weird frame network. So just don't cross the streams of your family and your meme photo frames because that could end up badly for you. But if you have a significant other, hey, send them, have your significant other have one at work. Actually, my parents bought one because now my dad has one in his office in addition to the one they have at home, and it all goes up to the same place. So yeah, it's incredibly easy. And honestly, especially with the holidays coming up, you guys should get this because, as Thorin says, everybody likes these things. Everybody likes them. If you don't know what to give somebody, just give them
you
one
want
of
it,
these.
but when you get it, you're gonna love it. It's that one. It's one of those types of gifts, exactly.
I remember when we got the sponsor and Thorin got his, he was like, "What is this?" And then he became the fiercest proponent of Aura.
Bro, I even think one of the most underrated parts is the fact that it can even do like up to 30 seconds of video. So sometimes I'll walk past and get like that fucking fright as if it was like the eyes moving on a page. Suddenly it'll move like, oh my God, it's a video. I forgot shit. I thought, because remember, you look at a frame and you think it's just a fucking photo in it. And also, I make this point every time, Monty. It blows my mind that, like, wait a minute. So we were on picture frames with just an actual physical photo in a frame for like an extra 20 years. Like, what? How did no one figure this out? Like, it's obvious you should have had the ability to change the photo in the frame. That should have been there for ages ago. We missed a trick on that one, people. But we're here now, Aura frames.
That's right. So for a limited time, you can save on the perfect gift by visiting Aura Frames, AURA, frames.com to get $35 off of Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames. Named #1 by Wirecutter. Use promo code summoning at checkout, auraframes.com, promo code summoning. Steel is exclusive to listeners, and the frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get in time for the holidays and support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Offer may vary by country, but ours works in multiple places. So
I believe it's UK, USA, and Canada, but also I've heard someone else who did an Aura ad once say, just try this code anyway, and sometimes there might be like a regional discount anyway in your region. Just give it a go if you're not from those countries. But if you're like from the Anglosphere, you've got a good chance.
Yeah, and terms and conditions apply, guys. But yeah, anyway, great holiday gift, and especially you still have a few weeks, but I promise you, your relatives, your partner, your wife, your girlfriend will love this.
Even if you have a T1 stan as a friend, just tell them to put in all the pictures of Faker and all the kawaii.
Exactly.
Put all that crap, put all the winning moments.
If you're a T1 fan,
scooping ruler with the Azir, do it all, boy.
Whatever you want.
Yeah. The joke is, I should even do, you know what, Monty? I should even do one like that. We should make a fake commercial for Aura where you're showing like your family and your thing. And then the joke is, when I go to my room, I'm like, it's important to cherish the memories that matter. And it's like, you know, Frog and doing the Yanivia fucking holding an M5 into like, you know, Flame on fucking Shyvana coming in over to. The joke is, that was what my frame would be, all those moments, you know. On brand.
Just
Get
Joe
brought
Marsh.
down.
Just Joe. We'll just pretend to be Joe Marsh with oiled up pictures of owner.
I'll never get over that. Low key, he didn't even really get in that much trouble for that, bro. To me, that is like, put it this way, here's an edgy take. I think a CEO of a team saying that is more outrageous than like some of the shit Whippo said, mate. I think that is wilding to say that in public. Because again, all I'll say is, if you want an obvious like comparison point, imagine a CEO of a team saying that about like a female Counter-Strike player. That would be fucking mental, bro. Like, but he apparently it's just okay because the guy's a dude. Like, all right, okay. How's that work? How's that work? With that said, though, I can't lie. If you listen, he opened the Pandora's box. I didn't do it. If you were picking Korean players to oil up for a photo shoot, or they'd be on top of the list, mate. It looks pretty jacked. I can't lie.
Other people can say that, just not your boss.
No, exactly. Yeah, I don't have to go and interact with the owner is the key point there, isn't it? I know exactly. I can just be a weirdo. All I'm going to tell you is this: I'm not gay, but I put it this way: from knowing LS for a long time and his type, I get it a little bit. Listen to Monty eating picking bears. I'll tell you that, mate. I'll tell you. You haven't seen Monty. He knows some beautiful people. That's all I'll tell you, mate. On the tiniest level, I get it.
Oh man. All right. So thanks for that. That's the Monty update, and Monty will continue to aggressively expand LFN. But yeah, check out the gaming channel. Like if you maybe some of you are listening to this, like I said earlier, and you're not really watching League anymore, you probably still play some games, so we'll still make content just over there. We got to get into general gaming, get some cool conversations going. So enjoy that. Help us out. So yeah. Oh, let's talk about Worlds formats, because this is my I got so much brain damage from obviously being on Twitter stupidly. So the I made a mistake of fighting with people about Worlds format on Twitter again, because people are so dumb and they have such bad reading comprehension that they can't understand even basic principles of formats. And so again, the argument comes up about Worlds not being double elimination, right? And I make the point that of course, T1 fans should absolutely love double elim, because it would prove beyond a doubt that their team is the best. And T1 fans are very strange, because and I said, because T1 always loses in double elim. So if there was double elim at Worlds, they could both prove they're the most clutch and win in double elim, because if you believe that T1, like here's the dichotomy that they have is that they simultaneously believe that T1 is the most clutch and they're bright lights merchants and they rise to the occasion when it matters most. But they also have to grapple with the fact that they've never won a double elim tournament. And why is that? But why wouldn't you want Worlds to be double elim if you believe T1 is the best team at Worlds every year? Because clearly they will still win under double elim circumstances. And there's, by the way, in the last 3 Worlds, the thing about double elim is you can never say that the winner would have lost the tournament, because they won all of the games. And in theory, they still would have won the same number of games, because if you go through the winners bracket, you play the same number of series as you do currently, and there is no bracket reset, so you would just win the final. You might have to beat one team twice, that's possible, but you would play the same number of games.
You play one extra game.
Okay, one extra game, but
you're right,
it's not fundamentally different. And the reasoning behind this is so bizarre, Thorin, because people were saying things like, well, in 2022, DRX wouldn't have won Worlds. And look,
I'd love to find out.
I would love to find out. But I would also personally love, Thorin, if I could grasp onto anything to say that DRX were frauds. But here's the facts, guys. DRX went through by far the harder side of the bracket, and they won all their games. Like, shockingly, DRX is super legit.
It's a very legit run, yes.
It's infuriating because they were so shit for most of the year, and they almost didn't even qualify, and they qualified as the 4th seed and then like almost lost. But they did actually have the hardest road to the championship through the bracket. And you can't say they wouldn't have won, because they did win. And that's not why we play double elim. We play double elim to have a good finals, and they did have a good finals that year.
That's the most underrated thing. Notice we're only focusing on the winner, Monty. Right? The best argument for double elim is actually you're going to have a really amazing finals matchup because you're
Yes.
going to have the most dominant team. And then are you ready? This is going to blow people's minds, Monty, because I agree with you. Wait a minute. In a sense, yes, if there's only one life, you have to be pretty clutch to get through that. It's also incredibly clutch to be almost down and out like the lower bracket and make an epic run. By the way, if you wanted the definition of clutch, I've made this point before. I made it in my video. In Dota 2, one of the all-time great American teams was Evil Geniuses with PPD. One of my mates is like the captain, and he won the majority of the tournaments of his career, including TI from the lower bracket. Like what he used to do was he would lose to one key rival in the upper bracket. Then he'd like figure something genius out in the draft. They'd win like 3-4 clutch series in the lower bracket. I mean, there was famously a TL won from the lower bracket. There's been a bunch of epic internationals that were won by the lower bracket team, but also you don't even need it to be like the clutch angle. I just think just to make a better finals matchup. If there's one big complaint anyone could surely agree with in League of Legends beyond this year and last, the last two were pretty good. There have been way too many shit finals in Worlds. There's been too many that were
the nephews don't understand that.
The team's got easy bracket. There's too many mates. There's too many.
These people started watching the game, Thorin, in like 2021, like during the pandemic or whatever. And in the past few years, there have been a shockingly good number of very compelling finals. Okay. But that is not normal for the history of League of Legends. In the total scope of world championships or MSI championships, most of them have been shit finals before MSI introduced double elim. So most of the international tournaments run by Riot Games have had very bad finals. And not only on top of that, but since they only recently changed to double elimination domestic games, also most of the domestic titles have had very bad finals. So you have been spoiled by random chance that you haven't hit one of the many worlds where it was very obvious that the best match was being played in the quarters or semis, which has been the majority of world championship games, period. So what this does is it eliminates the possibility of having more good games. And, you know, if you were to, what's so funny about this argument is that if you were to take this to even a different MOBA, which is Dota, and you would go to them and you would say to Dota fans, you know, TI should really be single elim. I think most of them would think you were insane because so many of the great TI stories have come from lower bracket runs. By the way, the upper bracket team still wins TI most of the time, but there are these Cinderella runs that come through the lower bracket that are extremely exciting. And what I don't understand is that people use loaded language to describe the world championship bracket where they say single elimination is more exciting. Okay, did you point your excitometer at the tournament and it just like it's a 9 out of 10 excitement, whereas double elim, you pointed at that, it's a 7 out of 10 as if a lower bracket.
They're also just doing it after the fact. They mean when they watch a 5-game final, it's mega. Well, when you watch that one where T1 beat Weibo Gaming, that was one of the worst matches I've ever seen. What was exciting about that final? Shit.
It was ass. And by the way, like you're also saying, well, I think that the high stakes of win and go home, you know, those stakes are higher, so it's more exciting. But my argument is, if you want to see elimination matches, you can watch them in double elim. Challenge for you: don't watch the winners bracket. Don't watch it. You can still watch a bunch of losers bracket games in the grand final. If you think winners bracket games are boring, just close your eyes. Just walk away from the TV. Yeah, exactly. Just walk away from the monitor. You don't have to have the fucking winners bracket invading your eyeballs. You could just be like, they have a second chance. I'm going to go outside now. You can do that. And guess what? There's just more league for all of us. You won't do that because they're still exciting, by the way. So, and
by the way, there's also another mad thing. Here's, you know, normally the best argument to win over any like philosophical debate is like the nuts and bolts of reality of what is possible and what generates money. Mate, do you know how many fucking sponsor dollars and views they are leaving on the table by not having these low bracket matches? Like, think about this. In the low bracket at this Worlds, you might have had Gen G versus T1. Yep. Not in this case, but you know what I mean? Like, could have happened separately. You could have had like a matchup, like pick what you want, anyone's legend against Genji. You could have had some matches that would have banged for viewership, mate.
If you're a T1 fan, you know, if you're a T1 fan, you didn't even get to watch T1 vanquish Gen G. So Gen G was just straight up beating T1 for most of this year, but you didn't even get to watch that. It's ridiculous. Of course, everybody wants to watch that. Nobody's going to say, wow, I'm sad I didn't see T1 versus Gen G. Everybody wanted more of that. And you don't have, like, I just don't believe that the person exists that if they move to double a limb, that somebody's not going to watch a winner's bracket match because it's less exciting.
People
Whatever the
who keep
fuck
telling
that
me,
even
Monty,
means.
that it sucks. I notice they never tell me why MSI sucks. Nobody thinks that. Even the people who want Worlds as single limb still think MSI is great. I don't get it. Because surely there's a great argument to be made against it if it's up, but you can't find it. It just bangs, doesn't it? It just bangs.
Yeah. And personally, I find it more satisfying because at least we get to really know who like the second, third, fourth best teams are at that tournament, which leaves us with far fewer questions. And, you know, if you really believe in T1 dominance, this would show it without any argument to the possible contrary, right? If you really believe that Gen G was the second best team, it would just literally show that. It would just show it.
Also, I'll give you an angle
that
no one makes. T1 fans, listen to me. If Faker and T1 are as clutch as they are, they would actually win some of these Worlds. Even better, are you ready? If Chovy lost twice at Worlds, you could fucking dump on him even more. If he had regular seasons where he's losing like 3 games and he loses 2 best of 5s, now you can go, he's a giga choker. It plays to your side. I always make the same argument, Monty, when I say I get to go away from BO1 in Counter-Strike at the majors. I always say, you do realise, yes, there'll be slightly less upsets, but when there is an upset in a BO3, it is going to hit so much harder, though. It's going to make it so much more epic and legit.
Also, I'm just going to bring this up because the stupidest arguments this time around were from people, mostly Brazilians, who make appeal to antiquity logical fallacies at me. So here's what they do, guys. You ready? They go, look at the World Cup, the most viewed event in the world, as if the format of the World Cup is somehow producing the most views. Like, it doesn't, guys. It's because people are nationalistic idiots and they just like to see that. It's not even the best soccer / football, guys. Like, objectively, Champions League is just a better version of the sport where the players have better synergy with the teammates
real
they play
team.
more of
That's
the
a real
time
team.
with
Absolutely,
real teams. And also the star power is much more highly concentrated on those teams. And nobody, by the way, Thorin, I'll note this. Nobody ever mentions Champions League's format, which is, by the way, a best of 2 up until the finals. And the only reason they don't have a finals best of 2 is because even the best of 2 system sucks because nobody wants to watch a final game where they play one game at each home stadium and then they end up like, dividing it by score. But even soccer realizes that one game is a bad format for soccer, which is why to get the best finals possible, they play multiple games in every stage of the Champions League playoffs. Now, you might ask, well, why don't they do that in the World Cup? I mean, don't get me started on the sport of soccer and how the stupidest way to decide a tie is in a shootout, which contains a 1v1 that doesn't exist in the rest of the game. So it's an entirely different skill set between somebody shooting the ball and the goalie to decide the outcome of a team sport. It is phenomenally stupid shootouts for determining who the better team is.
I've got a new take I'd never heard anyone else say until I came up with it, which is, you know, when they compare it to traditional sports, I'll take some very popular traditional sports. So the national sport of Canada is hockey. In the NHL, single limb Thorin, we've got you. Pause. Put a note there. NBA, it's best of 7 Thorin, single limb. But here's the thing. You don't play all the games on one day though, do you?
Yep.
What makes the less variance in those sports is best of 7's played on 7 different days, though. Yeah, so that's the thing.
I accept single limb if you play a best of 7.
Exactly. I'm with you. You can't have one, but also it's the fact that it's not all played in 3 hours. Like the fact there's different days of the BO7 also will make the better team win in general because you can't have fluky one day, can you?
Yeah. And like, I'll talk about this, but to finish with the World Cup stuff. So people just say, well, look at the World Cup. It's the most popular thing. I'm like, yeah, but the format of the World Cup is shit. And here's the thing people don't understand. So if the World Cup generates...
I'll give you one more, Monty. Maybe you don't know this one because this is even worse. The World Cup also has a thing in it, I believe. At least they had this in the past or something, where it's like you know, in theory, you have to be like top 2 in your group. There's then a thing where like one team that's like was third in the group gets out but it's based on all the other groups and who get some bizarre thing where like it's not even you deciding your fit. There's some mad like detail like that that's will
because only a
actually melt
certain
your
amount of
brain,
teams can
mate.
make the bracket,
Yes,
right? So
it
you
will
have to
actually melt your
decide
brain.
between it's
Yeah.
like goal differential based off of, you know, and then whoever has the biggest goal differential gets into the bracket from the third place seed. Anyway, it's nuts. So the other thing is people just say, oh, well, it's the most viewed sport in the world. So here's my question to those people. Well, if the format is creating like this giant success and like it is so successful, wouldn't more games be more success, right? If they were really making all this money. But no, you know who doesn't get paid as much money to be in the World Cup? Oh, right, the players. The players don't get paid as much money because the World Cup is a much worse business. If your theory is that World Cup shouldn't play more games, I bet you FIFA wants to play more games in the World Cup. They would love that, but they can't because they don't pay the players. It goes, obviously, the money goes through into all the individual like regional systems to promote soccer, also giga corrupt, obviously. But if it's not even like they would love more games. So if you tell me like World Cup would have less viewership with double a limb, like I just don't believe you. I just don't believe that's the case. And people are always like, haha, how could it be even bigger? But this is the attitude that it takes. We don't know. Maybe the World Cup would be bigger with double elimination. How the fuck are we supposed to know that? But the fact that an appeal to antiquity logical fallacy is just to say, well, because it has been done this way, it is the right way to do it. That's not an argument. And you can't just say, well, it's single elimination, so it's more exciting. What does that mean? That's just a subjective, it's completely nonsense. And to your point, Thorin, when they talk about NHL, NBA, Major League Baseball, you know, these are best of sevens. And I think people just don't understand in professional League of Legends, one game is not a game. It's like tennis, guys. Okay. When you go out and play a game of tennis, you might just play that one game, but that's not what a match of tennis is, right? Because at the professional level, there's too much variance within a single game to accurately determine a winner. This is why best of ones suck in League of Legends. So a match of League of Legends is a best of 3 or best of 5. We know this at this point in time. We've known it since the beginning, by the way. It's just Riot didn't know it or refused because they wanted
used to have fucking semis. No, it used to have quarters, used to be BO3s. The Worlds.
Because they literally, I know this because they told me this. They wanted that because it created more of a chance of an upset, therefore variance. They weren't actually creating a competitive structure. They were creating some bullshit WWE nonsense. So the point is that if you are to come to me and you say, okay, like, well, why is MLB or NBA or NHL single him? I'm like, all right, let's play 7 best of 7 of best of 3s or best of 5s. That's fine. I accept this. I accept single limb if that's the case. This actually is much better at determining who the better team is, right? And you can't miss me with one of the nonsense. Like, where did this, you have to be better on the day. Literally only true in the NFL, where if you played more games, you would die. And the World Cup, which has a terrible format, and I think the World Cup would also like more games if they could have more games.
When I was a naive outsider coming into the NFL, I also used to think, even if that's true, you know, with modern sports tech, surely you could still have a BO3. And then I realized that the reason why actually a lot of Super Bowls are underwhelming is it's almost never the case that both teams can get there without major injuries. I mean, you know this, mate. That time the Broncos lost to the Seahawks, Von Miller didn't even play the game, mate. He was injured already. There was
their whole defense was injured.
Yeah. Unfortunately, even only having like a 3-game fucking BO1 run ruined the squad. Like, turns out you can't play that, mate. It's why it's actually controversial that they added the extra regular season game, etc. Like, the NFL can't take more games. The sport's just too much wear and tear. League of Legends, you could play a BO7, mate. You could play, as you say, best of 3 or BO7s. You could do it all, mate.
And by the way, if you didn't watch Overwatch League is the only esport that actually tried to do this. And what they did was in the playoffs of the first season of Overwatch League, they did a best of 3 of best of 5s throughout the entire playoffs. If they had not done this, okay, no lower bracket, the team that won, London Spitfire, would have lost in the first game of the playoffs because they lost the first best of 5, but they came back to win the next 2 best of 5s, and then they went through a They went through the entire bracket and they swept the final in back-to-back best of fives. That would not have happened if it was just one best of five. Okay? So I accept, if you want to, if these are the stakes, I accept a best of 3 of best of fives in League of Legends. I accept this. And by the way, it wouldn't even be that hard to do. Because here's the thing, guys, you actually don't even need to have any more days of competition, because if you just play 2 best of fives a day, it's still 4 days of quarterfinals. It's still 2 days of semifinals. You could do 4 days of semifinals if you wanted to. That's fine. But also, even if you do that, you can give teams a day break in between the matches, right? Like, you can do these things. So you can actually just compact the schedule pretty effectively. I guess it'd be 1 more day, but effectively, like, because Worlds is a month long, it doesn't actually add any additional weeks. So you can, in fact, do quarterfinals in 6 days, quarterfinals in 6 days, and semis in like potentially 3 days. I wouldn't do it in 3 days. I would do it in 6, but you could do it in 3 days.
That's also what's infuriating, is the original Worlds were like a fucking 3 weeks for the playoffs, that we've always had the time to do this. That's why the most recent Worlds, if anything, was the worst of all Worlds, because what you did is you compromised where you made the tournament way shorter, but because it's only single elim, now you didn't give people good practice time. People were playing semis 2 days after a quarter. Like that's the worst of all Worlds you can get in that. So you've actually combined the worst parts of the format.
Yeah, but they did it to save money because they didn't want to have an extra week of people being on the road and paying for hotel rooms and other work that people were doing. But yeah, I mean, you could do this in a pretty limited format, because the other thing is you don't even know if you're going to need to play all 3 best of 5. So the last 2 days of any stage, or day of any stage if it's semis, may not even be played. And like, sure, you rent the venue for that, but that's the risk you take in the fucking NBA or NHL. And like, I accept if they want to do this. That's fine. But we can't just have what you were asking for is 1 match of League of Legends, which is a best of 5 with no double elimination, when there are no physical barriers to doing double elimination, like there might be in a physical sport in terms of injuries or exhaustion or recovery time, right? And we're not even like, if you can tell me that an NBA team can play how many matches? 28. You have to play. You can play up to 28 games in the playoffs. Is that right?
Like that, yeah.
NBA.
I mean, it'd
Something
be
like that.
3 rounds of 7 or something, wouldn't it?
21
4 rounds
games
of 7.
Yeah, I think in the NHL, you have to get 16 wins. Yeah, you have to get 16 wins to actually win the Stanley Cup, I believe.
It's the same.
So I mean, if you can play that many
they
games,
made a playing thing now, but that's neither here nor there. Whatever.
Yeah, if you're gonna be playing like that many games of basketball or hockey, like surely we can play some more games of League of Legends. And you wouldn't just go up and say, "Wow, this is such a cool format where you play 1 match and go home." Well, we only do that in the NFL because of injury reasons. Like the league wants to add more games. They keep trying. Players say no, right? So I think it's just complete nonsense. And people who are always like, well,
Bro,
there's no
if we're gonna dream, I'd have like the fucking UFC title fights be best of 3. The problem is it wouldn't work, would it? You get knocked the fuck out the first one, you wouldn't even be medically allowed to play the next
double
one.
double elim UFC would be sick.
It would be dope. In fact, by the way, they even used to have tournaments in like MMA. The problem, as you can imagine, Monty, is you could have someone win the semis but be injured, like because his leg got wrecked or something. So it just, again, what the point here is, the beauty of league and esports is we're in a totally different dimension than physical sports, and we set the rules. We don't have to go off some shit 100 years ago. We can just make something brand new today, and it's dope. Like MSI.
Yeah. So, and we don't have to be bounded by the rules of traditional sports, because it's not a traditional sport and we have different options. So can't we just do the cooler thing? Would be my question. And also for those people who are like, well, there's no reset in the finals. It's like, guys, what's your argument right now? We can't play. Esports is not an economic place where it could rent a stadium for a second day and not have the game be played. You cannot play 10 games.
So
of League of Legends.
I'll use a fallacy for once, Monty. Never did it before. Right, I'll use an appeal to authority. But I do think it's not a pure appeal to authority. I think it's actually quite telling. You know this, Monty. If a pro player can complain about anything, they will fucking do it. The joke in Counter-Strike used to be they'd complain if it was the wrong brand of water. You know what I mean? They complain that the shuttle you provided for them, which you're not even obliged to, was 5 minutes late. So all I'm going to say is this: with all those TIs and all these MSIs, why does the team that wins the winner bracket, if they don't win the final, why do they never complain? Why do they never go, well, the reason I didn't win is there was no bracket reason. It's bullshit. I didn't lose.
I've never even heard
I've
that.
actually never heard it. I've never heard a single pro ever in Dota do it in Borough. I know it hasn't happened yet in League, but to be fair, it's happened in like LCK and stuff. I've never heard it happen ever. I've never heard that argument even postulated by a pro. So what's bizarre, Monty, is as a general rule, I feel like the people who say that argument are people who just haven't watched many double LM tournaments. They're doing that thing again where they're going, hypothetically, though, it would be a problem. Because here's what's funny. I'm with them, Monty. If I think philosophically, it does feel off that you can like only lose one time and lose the tournament, but the other guy lost already and he got. But in practice, it just works. As soon as I see it in practice, it's the same reason why, Monty. I always used to think maybe you should give extra bans on the first game. But the problem is in practice, it's a shit game then. Now I win after winning 2 games, but you had to win 3. Unfortunately, in practice, this current method with no bracket reset and just having it, this is the final. It just works. I'm sorry, it does. It just works the best.
And it's just, if you've been in League of Legends and you understand the fatigue of the game, you can't play more than 5 games. Like that's just not, the quality of play when you get past that point declines pretty precipitously.
Yes. And Fearless would be completely destroyed.
Yeah, especially if you did Fearless. Like it would be insane to play a best of 7.
What would game 7 be on the draft there?
Yeah. Even if you gave a team a 1-game advantage. Here's the other thing. You think that not having a bracket reset is unsatisfying? I will tell you that a team winning with a 2-2 tie is unsatisfying. That will be more unsatisfying. Trust me. You will feel bad being like, wow, they played 4 games. It was a 2-2 tie and one team's lifting the trophy. People also just are plebs and they don't understand that side selection is a huge advantage. And every coach will tell you that.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing that's a huge advantage is playing fewer games. You can play, depending on the size of a bracket, 2 or 3 fewer best of 5s if you're coming for the winner's bracket. Allows you to save strategies, not show not show your hand. You're faced with significantly less stress. You don't play in advance of the finals, right? So you're not just like prepping for one opponent and then immediately turning around and having to play the other finalist immediately. You can kind of like do your scouting on both teams in the losers bracket finals, and then you'll be better prepared. And then people will say, well, what about, they're all warmed up. It's like, if that was an advantage, then teams would intentionally lose to go into the losers bracket. Nobody's ever done that, ever. Nobody's ever been like, yep, I sure am going to lose my quarterfinal match, so I'm nice and warmed up for that grand final. Ridiculous. Now, obviously, it would be better if we could have a full reset, but we just have to accept that that's not the economic reality of esports at the current point in time. Just like the NBA makes so much money that it doesn't matter whether they have 4 games or 7 games in a series, right? They can just take the L financially. Esports can't do that. You also can't rent a venue to play 10 games in a day because you'd have to start at noon and you get out at midnight, guys, and the venue would have already closed. Like, that's not reasonable. So this is the best solution given the limitations that are currently involved. And for those people who say the team coming from the winner's bracket has no advantages, that is completely insane. They have significant advantages. Significant.
You could even argue in Fearless that their advantage is larger, Monty. They've had to show less champions or less of their draft.
Yeah, sure.
That's pretty fire in Fearless. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to show this pocket pick that you would have been saving for game 5 of a best of 5. You didn't even
that's
play.
What the guy did in the low bracket to get to the final. He has to pull out his secret strat that he was, working on and crafting and then, but it's gone then. Now in the final, it's gone, and the upper bracket guys like, cheers, right? I've got the gout for that.
And also, if you know the history of League of Legends tournaments, there is nobody who is around in some of these tournaments who's like, well, shucks, that famous T1 versus Rocks Tigers semifinal. Man, I really didn't want to see that again in the final. You know what I hated? IG versus KT in 2018 in the quarterfinals. it would have been a shame to see that one played back in the final. Like nobody thinks that way. People, the nephews think that way because they've been blessed with good finals. You know, as soon as the bad, you know, you roll the dice wrong, and Riot's just gotten insanely lucky the past few years. But as soon as the dice, you know, come up snake eyes, and people have to watch the best game be played in quarters, and the rest of the tournament is shit, like it has been in the past, people are going to change their tune real quick on this. But
I'll give you an example. I always thought, Monty, in 2014, when the two best teams were the Samsung teams, they both won their groups and they met in the semis. Right on the other side of the bracket, that was when Uzi I Star and Roll Club, who were like the third best Chinese team, by the way, went to the final. I always thought if I was deft, sat there watching the final, I'd be like, what even is this sport? I won my group. I was the best in Korea, but he gets to say he's second, but he didn't play me. Like, what even is this? Like, I would just feel like this is just a fucking joke of a sport. Man. Basically, my luck was determined by the fucking bracket draw. What is this?
Yep. So, you know, I don't understand the arguments. The arguments are meaningless if you actually understand the game. All the arguments are just some vague appeal to authority or saying that one format is like more exciting as if that's an objective truth.
The problem is you nailed it at the beginning. This entire discussion in League is not only front-loaded by, but warped by T1 fans. They don't think anything you just said was an argument, Monty. What they think you're saying is this. I don't want Faker to win these worlds because he fluked them, and I want Chovy to win because he would win if it was the... By the way, do you want to know something?
Here's
a take for you. Put this as the title of the video. The Chovy I have seen at Worlds still might not have won Worlds even with double elim.
Sure.
Or maybe he might have won one, and it might have been by the smallest margin. In fact, I've made the point this year recently, because I think it's a very fair point to make, especially now he's failed, is, bro, I'll tell you the best argument against Chovy is the roster he had this year. Bro, he has like 3 cracked, if not GOAT at their position, like instant first ballot Hall of Famers with him, all very good in theory, and he didn't win. You know what? That's actually that's a condemnation of him. Like you can make that as a case against him. A lot of my favorite players, you notice, that didn't win were the ones where they didn't have the best teammates. Like if Aaron Rodgers, by the way, had Megatron and fucking Gronkowski, and then on defense he'd have had like fucking Khalil Mack, I wouldn't be saying like, I've never had any help. Like I'd be going, maybe you should have got it done in the conference final. You know what I mean? I had a totally legit argument to make, but they never make that argument because they're too busy on the fucking format.
Well, it's also, we haven't been saying that Gen G was the better team at Worlds because they weren't. Where's the line where I say, well, Gen G was the best team at Worlds, but they lost? I don't believe that. I believe they've underperformed at Worlds. Do I believe they've been the best team throughout the year many times? Yes, obviously, but not at Worlds. And there have been flaws, and people have thrown the games. So, you know, it's not even an argument that I'm making, but here's, you know, I'll put the final tilt cherry on top of this tilt Sunday for you, Thorin, which is people were actually saying the following to me, which would blow your mind. Many people, like dozens, were tweeting at me, well, nobody's ever asked for double elimination at a Counter-Strike major.
By the way, I'm not exaggerating, Monty. If you want to mix Twitch, where if you're a sub, I let people ask questions at the end of the section. And I've obviously done like a Patreon AMA for years. I've probably done 50 of them, mate. That is probably the most asked question ever, which is which majors would have been different if they'd had double elim. Now, I will say it's not something that all the fans ask for because we've very rarely had it in Counter-Strike, but it's something that certainly a lot of people have thought about. It's the most obvious thing to think of. Because the same thing, what if you get the bad bracket draw? It ruins the tournament.
And also, everybody who I think is an analyst in CS has said, please give us double elimination at the majors. Is there anybody who like hates double elim at the majors?
There'd probably some people. Like, by the way, some people would unfortunately just make the same argument of like it's more epic that you have to win all the ones. Someone would do that, I'm sure. But I think, put it this way, here's the key thing. I would just make this argument. Obviously, it's completely speculative. If you did it like Emma Salik, you actually ran an amazing major in double elim, I think everyone would be a convert instantly. Same thing happened with the BO5 finals, mate. They didn't like them for a long time, but now we have MR12. The matches are shorter. Everyone now wants BO5 for everything. So in fact, the majors now are BO5 finals. But I think sometimes people have to see it and experience it, then they know it's the best. So I would say it's probably like half and half right now in CS. But there's more people than everyone realizes. Everyone isn't just
the fact that people were saying that nobody has ever asked for it was like so insane, which is that, of course, everybody's talked about that.
And by the way, here's the punchline. original Counter-Strike started with double limb. The CPLs were double limb. That's what CS began.
Just like League, by the way. Just like League, the early tournaments that were famous, IPL 5.
Yeah, so
double limb,
MLG,
guys.
all that shit, yeah.
It's because those were the real esports people who knew esports who were running those events. And people who are around in 2012 for IPL 5, still some of them say that IPL 5 was the greatest LoL tournament.
That's how I always knew, Monty. They don't watch Dota. Because I always tell them, IPL 5 was just what the international was for like 10 years or something. It's changed a little bit now, but it was basically the same format. So what you mean is the international Dota 2 has a better format than Worlds. You only know your game, so you're having to live with the nostalgia of a third-party tournament at the end of 2012, but you don't realize there's another esport with a very similar game that's been had in a better format the whole time.
Also, the final tilt, Cherry, is that people were telling me, Thorin, that I had never asked for double a limb before T1 started winning again.
Do you know the beauty, Monty? We're on record. It's called Some of the Insight. There's sort of like thousands of hours of this shit.
Other people started necroing my tweets from like 10 years ago about me complaining about no double limit worlds. Being like, what are you talking about?
Of course.
Of course. At what point in time did I not talk about this would be a better question. I have been talking about this for 12 years. I was complaining about best of threes and playoffs. I was complaining about no double a limb. It's like, I've been around esports for over 20 years at this point in time. I've seen plenty of double a limb in many different games. So of course I want double a limb. Like what? But yeah, they were saying, nobody in Counter-Strike wants it. And also, you didn't even want it before T1 started winning again, you disgusting hater. I'm like,
I'll give you a fun one as well.
Yes, MonteCristo, famous faker hater, MonteCristo.
You know how I pointed out that T1 has never won a double a limb? So basically, as soon as LCK, it was actually 2 splits later, I think. As soon as LCK went to double limb, they never won, right? I'll give you another example of where narratives that work for Faker never work for anyone else, bro. So when it was single a limb, and especially that gauntlet format, which was the worst one ever, because then you could be like shit hot, like Griffin, but then you only play one match, it's the final, and you lose to Faker. When Faker used to beat people in those finals, Griffin, BDG and Gen G, or Rocks Tigers, people used to say the other team are chokers. Riddle me this, Monty. When Faker can't win LCK, why is he not a choker?
Well, you see,
logically, he only wins one tournament a year at the moment, Monty. If someone does something once out of 8 chances or something, that seems like that would be the outlier. If someone does something 7 out of 8 times, that seems like that would be the pattern. So logically, if not winning makes you a choker, Faker chokes his tits off all the time. There's your headline as well. It probably won't be the headline, but I would put that as the headline. Faker chokes his tits off all the time, ... There you go.
Also, I found this funny because I saw Zale tweeting about, why don't we recognize LCK titles in MSI for Chovy? And he was making, the good argument.
It's a good point. But it was actually a good point.
I mean, yeah, sure, which is what we talked about. But also, Azale, it's your buddies at Riot who are the ones who just say Worlds is the only thing that matters. We made Worlds. Worlds is super. Nothing else matters. And you know why you did this is because if Riot acknowledged the truth in the beginning that LCK was by far the best region and it was harder than Worlds, because that's what I was saying, but they were like, no, we must counter the narrative. The narrative is Worlds matters. That's where the international competition is, even if the teams are worse than they were in Korea. Like, now, no, Worlds. And the reason they did this was because if they didn't do this, then it would just be obvious that the real world championship was LCK and nobody should give a shit about the other regions. It was a fake narrative that Riot created so that they could prop up the viewership and hype of their regional leagues outside of Korea. That is it. That's also why they took away all the other independent tournaments, because what they didn't want, guys, is Koreans clapping everybody's cheeks multiple times a year like they had done in the pre-league LCS era, right? When teams would actually compete all around the world, again, there were some outliers like Moscow 5 or CLGEU who were very competitive, but for the most part, the open circuit was just a bunch of teams clapping, Korean teams clapping people. And most of the IEMs were won by Korean teams. And so they didn't want to have that. So they just built up this mystique about Worlds every year so they could delude the local fan bases into being excited and drum up popularity for them. I don't think you have to do it that way, because certainly there are popular sports leagues in countries, even if they're not the best, like, you know, KBO for baseball in Korea, or the Japanese leagues, right? You know, just because teams typically aren't as good as the average Premier League team doesn't mean that the other leagues in other countries in Europe aren't popular, right? There's ways to do it without the delusion. But that's not what they chose to do. So they went all in on worlds. And then also, when they did create other tournaments, MSI didn't exist until 2015, and MSI was an afterthought, and MSI just sounds lame. Worlds has a weight and prestige to it in the word Worlds and the branding.
Also, please
MSI
we've said it a million times. Take
mid-season
Invitational out the name.
invitational.
Take Invitational out the name.
It's not even mid-season anymore.
Just call it Championship or something. Just call it Championship. You know.
It's
Do you know what I would do, actually, Monty?
qualifier.
Look, I'm not inventing this. I'm stealing it. I would rename MSI to something like Major, Masters, a name that also carries great prestige but isn't World Championship. I would give it a different name like that. That'd be cool. Mid-season Masters or something, you know, whatever you want.
Explain to me why there can't just be 2 majors in a year,
like in
Counter-Strike.
You even pointed this out before, by the way. It's even, of all the games, leagues right there, have one called like the Ionia fucking Championship.
Yeah.
And then the other one's like the fucking built over Masters.
Yeah. It's like Damascus Cup. Just call one the Damascus Cup. Like, the problem with MSI is it just sounds lame.
Yeah, it does.
It just sounds terrible.
And it sounds like some dog shit pit stop. Like, it's just a mid-season invitational. It's like, it's
exactly
a championship. What are we talking about? It's massive.
So, you know, I just find it funny because Azael's talking about this, but literally everything that Riot has done has been to prop up Worlds and then to not erect a second pillar within the calendar that has the branding or prestige, even though it is just a better, MSI is just a better tournament at this point in time. It's more interesting. And so it literally is just all on Riot, and they fed the fucking beast. They fed, and then, by the way, the casters are super guilty of this, because all of them have just been going, it's Worlds, it's Worlds, 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 Worlds. You know, nobody ever gets hyped about MSI. I didn't care about Worlds. I was like, yes, OGN finals. This is my jam. I was hyped about that.
And the joke is LCK final basically is what the World's final was anyway. It's just a fucking, it wasn't those 2 teams, but it was KT versus T1 anyway. 3 of the Korean teams were in the fucking semis. What are we even talking about here?
Yeah. So, I don't know, man.
And also, Azael, wait a minute, bro. You're pointing out that, like, LCKs are really important, but you didn't put LCS in there, bro. So they should probably get those casters and analysts from the LCK on the World's final, not like you and fucking Kobe or something, mate. Like, come on, mate. What are we talking about? How does that work? Also, spoiler, I tell you what, Azael, if you want a gig on LCK, I can get you it. I reckon if you hit me up, we'll get you in there, mate. We'll get you the flight. We'll get you out there for next year. You'll be cast in Chovy versus Faker. It'll be dope. You want to do it? Oh, you want to stay in LA and have those really great tacos and fucking give me and have the fucking whatever it is, get Trader Joe's or whatever. That's why I didn't even know where to go with him. But he's a bit bald, so I went with like a health route, you know, whatever. Sad thing about him, as I've always said, I actually do think he's a slightly worse version of Jack for me, because I actually do like some of his analysis. And I think he is a really established person who's very smart. For me, I sort of it's his Twitter. It's only his Twitter. I hate Viewer's Twitter, because on his Twitter, he always comes up.
I agree with his tweet.
I understand I'm saying that,
but I'm like, Azael, this isn't a mystery. Why don't you just shoot off a few emails to your coworkers and be like, hey guys, do you think we could lessen the importance of Worlds in our narratives, please? Let's change the branding. Like, you can find out the answers to these questions, and also you could literally just talk to the people who made these decisions. Now, of course, you don't want the answers to these, because, you know, you'll be blacklisted. But the reason why this all happened was the reasons I stated. So it is nonsense, though.
I have a little segue in classic Summon the Insight fashion. Spoiler, we don't plan any of these topics, but this is just going to be one out of left field for you. I'll tell you an interesting detail, Monty. I have learned the hard way, sadly, that when you give people props for something in esports, just wait. So I'll give you an example. Do you remember a few years back, a lot of us were willing to do that, like, fucking ending of Dead Poets Society for Dash. He basically sacrificed himself on the funeral pyre of the Saudis. And we were standing on our tables. Oh, captain, my captain. Wow, he gave up that gig. Even when he didn't get hired by Riot, he gave up the bag for EWC. Sorry, he was doing the fucking Esports Awards. Like,
Chess.
do they
He's
all
doing
just
chess
break
for
in?
DWC.
Do they all just break in the end bit? What is this? Like, what was the sacrifice for then? You could have just been doing it the whole time. It's so weird, isn't it? It's so weird. What is this?
Yeah, exactly. You should have just taken the bag at first.
Did he just wake up one day and there was that bill there, like, this is your last warning for the lights, otherwise the electricity goes off? And he goes, you know what? Actually, maybe they do drive there now. What was the moment? I want to know the mechanism, how it changed, Ash. I need to know, mate. I need to know what happened, mate.
Well, here's my theory, Thorin, that the dam is just going to break now that Cadril has accepted the Saudi bag. So now that
he took all the arrows, mate. Everyone else is just going to take a minor one at this point. Now that Cadril's already stepped over the line, we've all accepted it, by the way. We all still like him even. Everyone could do it now. Let's be real. Let's be real.
So, now that the dam is broken, I expected EWC to see some different faces there for League of Legends casters next year. Because obviously you can't just let the people who have been going, continue to do it. You need that bag too.
That's your bag. Who's that? Some guy who used to cast League. You're casting it now.
Also,
that's
I saw nobody mentioned this, but wasn't one of the reasons why the League Awards was created was because the Esports Awards were owned by the Saudis now?
Certainly seemed like that, especially if you want to add in a detail, which, listen, it's just me. It's what I am. It's weaponized autism. No one else noticed this. But the year that they made the Esports, the League Awards, Shox did a tweet where she said publicly, like, by the way, I asked not to be nominated for the Esports Awards. The implication there absolutely is you don't care about the Esports Awards anymore and you're not into it. But I did notice, first of all, she's now nominated again. And then secondly, she accepted that, like, broadcaster of the decade or whatever the fuck it was. So weird how that's all. We've also gone back over that Rubicon, right? I'll just explain something very simple. People always get wrong about history, Monty. I think some dumbasses don't get the metaphor and they think the Rubicon is like Kilimanjaro. You have to skip. It's a tiny little river. The whole point is it's the gesture. The idea is if you go over that, then you have shown you are committing the treason essentially against your nation and you're going to take over. You can't then go back and go, actually, I'm just going to step back over the river. Actually, my bad. I'm back.
The Rubicon wasn't a natural, it wasn't the fucking Alps that Hannibal marched over to get to Rome with his elephants, guys. What it was is that the purpose of the Rubicon was a delineating geographic feature that was not difficult to cross. But the point is that you didn't bring the legions into Rome from beyond that point, because if you did that, it was a sign that you were trying to create a military overthrow of the Senate.
Yes.
So the rule was you don't cross the little creek, because when you do that, everybody knows that means you are trying to make a military authoritarian government and overthrow the republic. That's what it means. And indeed, that is what happened. that is what happened.
I'm with you. That's even something last year at the time, taking it at face value again. I was totally, that's one reason I even cheered on the League Awards being created. I thought to myself, especially because Cage actually, if you remember that year, he himself after the awards even was sort of like, I don't think T1 should have won. I didn't vote for them. I even thought this is legit as fuck. He's trying to actually correct. We've done this ourselves with his own project, what he thinks a problem in the industry is. But I know what you mean. Now it's just another awards. Now there's just 2 award shows. Okay, cool.
Well, I do appreciate, though, I do appreciate that they continue doing the League Awards, because the problem with the Esports Awards is that they're called the Esports Awards, but what they've transformed into is like the Streamer Awards, where now we give, it's not even about really esports. The biggest awards are, Streamer of the Year. And because now, back in the day, esports was the big thing. And now we have Kai Cenat and iShowSpeed and Ibai and these people who are much bigger than esports. So now the Esports Awards has to include them as well, because we need the maximum amount of eyeballs on it. And it was never, ever actually about creating a award space for esports. It was about enriching the people who run it as much as possible. And that's why they sold out to the Saudis. So at least with the League Awards, I appreciate that it is focused pretty tightly around the esports competitive scene in League of Legends. So I don't have to deal with all this like scope creep. And sure, they have Content Creator of the Year, but those are people who make content about esports, right? I mean, LFN was nominated for that, right? This is, the people who are in there are content creators in the esports space. right? Like Boss might have won, but he is, community creator talent of the year, but he participates in esports events at the amateur level, right? Um, creator talent of the year. There are some people in there who are not necessarily, no, they're all esports adjacent, actually, now that I look at the list. So, this is about esports for esports. It's not even about broader League of Legends content creation for the most part. So I appreciate that about it very much. And it doesn't need to be bigger than it is. It can just be what it is.
Already good. Yeah, it's already good. By the way, that is one thing. I might even do a separate video about this one day, though. The one problem you have is this. The reason I do want awards like this to exist, if I ever make the video, by the way, the obvious title will be something like, why don't you make your own internet? Because it's one of those. You know, when people go, just make your own awards. Guys, I could make an awards on this show right now and say who the best players are. I did it last episode about who the top 3 players were. Here's the problem. That's not, you don't really want that. The reason the Esports Awards wins right now, and with the Saudi funding will continue to win, is because it is the Oscars. You know, one of the biggest parts of the Oscars is the fucking red carpet part before, where you take all the photos and you have the lovely... It's about the gala, bro. What people really want is the gala and to dress up in tuxedos and to have people...
And we went,
on stage.
by the way, Thorin and I were both on the panel for that, and we went before it was bought out by the Saudis, and we enjoyed it, and we tried to help it.
The problem is, though, essentially, this is what, if I make a video, I'll go into. It's almost impossible to actually have a giant Oscars-style gala for esports without compromising and corrupting yourself for things like you have to get all the game devs have to win because they have to buy the table full of seats, and you have to have like big streamers, whether they're actually that good or not, they have to be so their fans can vote for them. And then sometimes you can't have everyone stay home, Monty, and send the remote message. So every now and then, oopsie daisy, what's that? Someone else did win, but since we know they can't come, magically second place. Actually, what you're gonna run into these things. And sadly, I'll even tell you this: back when I was working with the Esports Awards, they essentially told me in a roundabout way, "Look, mate, this is how every major esport industry works with its awards show. We didn't invent this. This is just how you make the logistics of it work. Because how else do we fly everyone out, put them up in a fucking fancy hotel in London, then limo them to the fucking event? Like, there's no fan buying the ticket for this shit. So unfortunately, the economics mean the Esports Awards will always be scuffed, which is why, though, we do need things like the League Awards to have the real winners, etc.
Yep. So no, I'm saying I appreciate the League Awards and what they are. And also the other unfortunate thing is you do need some level of fan voting so that people feel like they're invested and it keeps them involved in the process and willing to watch, which sucks because like the fans shouldn't be voting on this, but what can you do? I wasn't, we were not offered a chance to vote. Maybe you were. I was not offered a chance to vote this year, but I would have turned it down anyway because like I don't feel like I'm qualified at this point of my League of Legends career to say who the best player in every region was because I didn't watch enough of the regions, so I would have just turned it down. But I did vote last year, I believe.
By the way, in general as well, I also prefer the League Awards because most of the winners make more sense. There's only one I think is nonsense, which is nominations are separate. I might even do a separate video. There's a few I think missed, etc. There's one winner I think is absolute bobkiss, which is Caps won LEC Player of the Year. Right? Listen, Caps, you could even argue maybe he wasn't the best G2 player. Like, for me, he would never be Player of the Year of the LEC. Like, this isn't even a good Caps year. This is like a medium or lower half Caps year. The winner of LEC Player of the Year for me would probably be Canna from Carmine Corp if you take the whole year. If you want to go beyond that, you can start to get into people like, I mean, I even think over the whole year, like Skewmond was better from G2. You can go a bunch of angles. I'm just shocked that I think that's just a popularity thing. They just gave it to Caps because he's the faker of EU. It's the same shit, you know. If they win, he must have been the best. I don't get it because to me, he wasn't outstanding this year. Look, he might have been best mid because mid is actually now, this is how long you've been away from League, Monty. Mid is now the weakest position in Europe in League of Legends. What?
Shocking.
What? That would be like the NFL having no good running backs. Be like, the whole sport was based on it. What? What are we doing? And I'll just say this, even though I understand, just like with the Esports Awards, where we were potentially going to win the award, but we were also on the panel because there's only so many people can do and run these things. It just looks bad, even though I get it, Cadril. I love that you're running this, mate. If you weren't running it and it was just Sharks on a road, it wouldn't be as big. Has to be Cadril too. But the idea Cadril runs it and then his player, Baus, wins like fucking whatever. What was the actual title of that award? It was
Community
community creator talent. When your own player wins it, it just looks funny, you know. It's not wrong. It might not even be wrong, but it just looks funny. That's all I'm going to say. Just going to say, mate. I'm just going to say.
Before we go on to our next topic, because I want to talk about some other stuff that has been happening, I do want to talk about Mint Mobile, which is one of our sponsors, which, as I say, guys, look, I use public Wi-Fi so much these days with ExpressVPN, of course. But you know, I'm not actually using that much data on my phone anymore. So especially if you're working from home or you are at public cafes or I mean, everywhere has public Wi-Fi these days. So as long as you're taking adequate precautions with that, there's really not a lot of need, in my opinion, to have like these unlimited potential mobile plans that are super expensive. And Mint Mobile already is on the nation's largest 5G network and has unlimited talk and text and that high-speed data if you're in America. So switching over, a good idea. Plus, if you travel internationally like I do, they have a ton of international plans. So you just buy by the day and you get 5G coverage in international countries. So there's really just no need to pay for that. So if you already own your phone, you just bring your phone over and your current number. Most phones have eSIMs these days, so it takes like 10 minutes to switch over. There's no long-term contract that's you're on the hook for, and you just like prepay for a 3, 6, or 12-month plan, which could be like $15 a month for unlimited. So, you know, I would just save some money personally. So, if you guys want to try it out, it's been good. So turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/summoning. That's mintmobile.com/summoning. It's a limited time offer, upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan required, equivalent of $15 a month. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 35 gigabits of data may slow networks when they're busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage vary. See mintmobile.com for details. But I mean, I just buy my phones up front because like I don't want to pay extra on the installment plan. It's just such nonsense. So, just be free of the BS.
By the way, one thing I think we should, I'll just quickly last tag on that League Awards. One thing I'll also give props to Cadril for. Look, there's certain other areas where maybe he does fuck with us and doesn't actually just, stay in his own lane. But there's a universe where people don't know, because I left the Esports Awards panel and then exposed that all the things I thought were corrupt about it. After that year, they never nominated me again, even for journalists, when they used to have that award still. I just didn't exist. They would put like randos you've never even heard of as the 10th name, right? League Awards technically allowed LFN to be on there. I flamed the fuck out of Cadril on this show this year, and we were still nominated. That's actually legit. I'll give him props for that. Fair play.
By the way, Esports Awards, the first year we were at LFN before they were bought by the Saudis, we were nominated as LFN for Esports Content Creator of the Year. Mysteriously, when they started associating with the Saudis, all of a sudden we were not. LFN was not nominated.
By the way, shall I tell you an obvious thing? I don't know if they've thought of this yet. Is anyone listening from the Saudis? I know at the moment, because of what's been going on, you actually might like stop investing in projects now, unfortunately, due to some of the things you've done elsewhere. But if you just want to do one last purchase, just buy this awards too. Just give them a bag. Why not just have them all? You idiots. Then you just win the game, don't you? Just saying.
That's right. Just have the League Awards
get them all, mate.
in Riyadh, in November. Doesn't have to be at a Red Bull event or whatever.
Get them all.
The corruption is hilarious. I do want to talk about the FlyQuest stuff in the offseason, because that was another one, by the way, where I love this. Everybody watches some 30-second teaser on social media. It gets millions of views.
Which is proven because of how many views that one clip had. But I think it was, as someone pointed out, the actual main video has barely any views. Like so everyone's already seen the clickbait part, mate, eventually.
And by the way, this is just another time of normies not understanding what competitive people are like. And okay, so Inspired gets mad. You think that, I mean, how do you win so many titles if his teammates hated him and they didn't have good chemistry in the game? Sure wins a lot of games for a guy that is hated and a bad teammate. Guys, I will just say up front, it is very hard to be a bad teammate when there are only 5 players on a team and have those people continuously motivated to play with you.
Also, I just asked this obvious question. Like, one thing I've never understood, bro, is everyone watched because of the pandemic, The Last Dance. But because Michael Jordan won, it was fine. He was an asshole. But he was an asshole. Do you remember what he did to that Scott Burrell guy? He was just punking him 24/7 and being a piece of shit to him. Like, here's what's weird about that. You all get, surely, please tell me you get that was part of his success, not the limiting factor. You do get that, right? You do get that essentially. The role players played almost for Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? Like they felt like this is something Tom Brady did as well, by the way. By the way, despite what he does on his broadcast now, Tom Brady, behind the scenes, I've heard, chewed motherfuckers out, mate. If you like missed a ball in practice, if you came lazy and late, like, it's fucking telling you, get him out of here, of course. So what these people don't seem to realize is it's actually part of the competitive DNA. Sure, you're going to get the odd person who's fucking zen and can do it all without raising his voice. By the way, I don't even buy the narrative I saw dickheads on Reddit say, where they were like, this is why Faker is the GOAT. He is always respectful. We've never seen a T1 practice. We have no idea what Koreans say in those. And after seeing LPL ones that were in documentaries, Monty, I'll bet there have been some hella spicy LCK ones. You know what? I'll even go ahead and speculate in light of the whole CV Max thing. I'll bet there have been Korean boot camps or VOD reviews where someone got slapped, motherfucker. I'll bet that. Hey, you don't want to hear that one, do you? Or got told something like, you don't get to come to dinner with us because you lost the fucking game. I'll bet there's been some wild shit back in the day.
By the way, we just seem to have memory hold Faker smashing his head into a wall, which is, look, guys, that's Faker mad at himself. Now imagine what he's like when he's mad at somebody who's not Faker.
By the way, I think it was Dom said this, but even though it's dark, do you want to know something weird? That made me fuck with Faker even harder, Monty, because it showed me, despite what his fans say with LC kids, bro, he wants to win all these games of League of Legends. Yeah. That is fucking dope. It's not dope how it manifested. It's sad, but I'll tell you what, the fact that he cared that much after all the worlds, I actually fuck with that heavy, bro.
Yeah. I mean, he's won more than anybody else by like 2x, 3x.
But he wants more still. That's what's so, he's on the Tiger Woods thing of like, I want every single fucking one of these I can win. I think that's sick, mate.
Yeah, agreed. And, you know, with Inspired too, the other thing is that people just don't understand that if he's talking to other competitive people, I promise you that most of the people he talks to hate losing more than they hate being talked to like that. And so they will choose to deal with that behavior from Inspired if it makes them better, because that it pushes them to not lose, and they hate losing more than they hate that. So that's just how it works.
I'll give you an example, except I'm going to intentionally choose an extreme example, Monty. Right? If you've ever read any of the biographies or heard the stories, it does sound like, unironically, Steve Jobs was an abusive boss that, like, in the modern day would get absolutely fucked by lawsuits and the Board of Labor would destroy him. He was doing shit, Monty, like beyond the pale of like as in, we already had a super aggressive schedule for this product. I'm just going to tell the investors it can be done in half the time. And you're like, it can't. And he just goes, make it happen or you're fired. He was doing shit like that. But do you want to know something incredible, Monty? At the end of it all, when they do documentaries now about Apple, when he was there, people say mad shit. Like, those are the worst years of my life. But in some ways, they were the most meaningful and like satisfying. And I was a part of something I could have never been a part of otherwise. And he's the reason why it was the worst, but also the reason why it was excellent. Now, I picked an extreme example there because Inspired calling someone an NPC is not the same as Steve Jobs basically telling you, like, destroy your fucking entire body or we're all fired. Like, that's different, you know. But
I mean, it was always dramatized, but in one of those biopics they did of Steve Jobs, they had that confrontation between him and Woz, the lead engineer, in the theater, where basically, you know, it was the battle of the product guy versus like the brand guy. And I was reading this interview with Woz, who said that never happened, to be clear, but in spirit, it had definitely happened.
Yeah, by the way, the reason why I always tell people that movie, the one just called Jobs, which is by Danny Boyle, the guy who did fucking Trainspotting, the reason that movie bangs, Monty, I did a whole video about this, is because a bunch of it never happened. It's creative license. But what never happened is truer to the story and the archetypes.
And the people who were there say like, yeah, it never happened like that. It's a movie. But yeah, he was this way. And it did. That was definitely
it's like that
what happened in spirit.
Spoiler, the thing at the end where the actual design of the Mac, the fucking iMac, was his daughter's draw. That never happened, by the way. But I'll tell you what, as a script writer, that's brilliant writing. That's how you tie together the themes and give a satisfying ending. In real life, by the way, he was a flawed person who never had that. He was just a dick to his children, and he sort of just wanted to fucking put product out, and he thought it was better than everyone. Look, but that movie made it way better, more sense. That's the problem. There's a famous saying, isn't it? Like, the problem with fiction compared to reality is fiction has to make sense.
Yeah, and also, I mean, he did create the biggest company on earth.
That was genius.
You know,
not gonna changed everything: streaming, iPhones, fucking everything. Think about all the shit we all have.
Modern world. Yeah,
and I mean, he didn't. The point is, he didn't get there. He didn't get there, Monty, by sitting down and going, right. Oh, you have a hard time working hard. I'm going to pencil you in for 6 hours this week for your mental health and work-life balance. Oh, what's that? Oh, she's pregnant. I'll just give her 2 years off. Don't worry about that. We'll cancel that. Take that off the budget. Oh, wait a minute. You haven't finished that product. It might not even be possible. I'll just call the investor. You're not going to get it done, mate. Just cancel the investment. Like, there'd be no fucking iPhone if that was the case. The joke is we'd all be on some like if you want the real dark Skynet Terminator 2 alternate future, Bill Gates would have led the world. We'd all be listening on the what even was the name of his iPad iTunes thing? What was his
like the
shit thing called?
Oh, the Zune.
The Zune. We'd all be listening to a Zune, bro. Like that's the dark dystopia.
We avoided the Zune future. But yeah, I mean, look, sometimes driven people do these kind of things. But anyway, the point is that I just found it ridiculous that, you know, FlyQuest bothers to release and by the way, I love teams that do this. It's very interesting to see the inside of, you know, these teams. But also, guys, I have been on the inside of many esports teams.
Are you ready for a joke, Monty? I'm going to set you up here. I almost did the belly laugh where it's like, I actually low-key love people who can't even have self-awareness. Do you want to know one of the people who commented on the Inspired thing? And the question was, I just saw it pop up in my feed. It was a double lift stream clip. And it's him watching the Inspired thing. And it's like, is Inspired just toxic? And I'm like, double lift. Double lift! Double lift! Bro! Link left, and I always phrase it this way: Link left and wrote a 17-page document that made the other members of CLG sound like fleeing Japanese and you like Godzilla, bro. And you were just the guy in the room, like that. That's who you were as a fucking player. Like,
well, and also you have to understand that these guys are mostly just nerds, right?
Of course.
And so what they do is they pick the one spicy moment out of like fucking hundreds of hours of scrims. And you have to understand that 99.9% of the time, these guys are just there, not talking to each other, avoiding conflict.
When they did the Game Cribs thing, because I worked with him as my cameraman at On Gamers right the year afterwards. When they did Game Cribs, the first reality TV show about TSM, the famous story he told me was he loves the odd one. And I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, oh, what would happen was I'd be filming all day and they were just bloody playing scrims and no one even did anything. And there wasn't arguments most days. So he said, what I would do is I'd get the odd one and I'd go, right, you're going to do like a breakdown for me where you tell me about like what could be happening and just make some shit up basically. And then also, like you're saying, you have to just put 1 billion hours on the cutting floor till finally they have an argument. Suddenly, you know, someone argues over a Subway sandwich, and then you make that like the center of the whole episode. No, I know what you mean. It's so curated, it's nuts in it. It's ridiculous. Well, they're not doing this every scrim, for fuck's sake.
This isn't, these aren't like, you know, roided up football players, man. They're fucking nerds. Like, this doesn't, you don't get into fights, really.
At all. They act like Inspired's like fucking jackknife power bombing people through tables after every loss or something.
Like you said, Link wrote the Dunzo Manifesto. And you know what he was actually doing during that time period? Was he getting into fights with people? No, he was literally just passive aggressively lying in his bed instead of coming to scrims on time. And then he leaves and writes a 17-page fucking manifesto. There was no conflict with Link. He was just
still one of the greatest memes of all time, though, is just making the Dunzo Manifesto. That might be the low key, sadly, because he didn't achieve it. That might be the best thing he ever did in his career. I mean, that's legacy.
Thorin, I wish there would have been a confrontation because at least we could have solved maybe some of these issues instead of him just quitting. Yes. Just like quit on the team basically and didn't say anything and didn't do anything and refused to practice. Like You know, but if they were more, I wish we had more inspired moments so that afterwards you could be like, all right, that was a little too much inspired, but let's talk about the actual problems here. Maybe you should apologize for calling that guy an NPC and let's talk about what's actually going on. You
I've
usually
got a
want
banger
those
for you.
moments.
Obviously, earlier this year, I think it was February, I did the cardinal sin of making an amazing piece of journalism where I had the most referenced sources probably ever in any article ever, where I talked to like dozens of Reckless's former teammates, coaches, even friends of his, etc. And I cross-referenced it all and got basically like a people's history of what it was like to be in teams with Reckless. Monty, there is a story. Imagine you had this not as a story from Thorin, but as a documentary. You know the year, season 8, when Fnatic went to the World's Finals? In the boot camp for that Worlds, Reckless was inting the scrims and being such a dick and not talking to people that they all voted, the players voted, Monty, to bench him and field Bwipo as ADC, even though when they would try Bwipo as ADC in scrims, they were losing all the scrims. And the only reason it didn't happen is because the coaches vetoed it, because they were like, look, I get you don't want to play with Reckless, but you're going to tank your careers. Like, all of our stocks rest on the result of this Worlds. They forced them to play with Reckless, and the joke is they made the final of Worlds. Now, logically, Monty, that could never happen, because unless you're all kumbaya and you all love each other, and you're all talking with really soft, gentle parenting voices, apparently you can't win in sports. That's what I don't get is I don't even think it works in offices, man. I think you need a bit of spice there too. But in sports, especially, it's a man's world, boys. Come on.
It's so funny too, because you can just tell how nerdy and soft the esports community is. Because, I mean, if you were even in elementary school competitive sports, a coach has yelled at you.
You can look it up online.
Been in that situation?
I think it was WE. There's an LPL team that had a documentary when they like failed a Worlds or something, Monty, and they're just screaming. The coach is just screaming in their face for like fucking up a Baron or something, mate. Like he's fucking going off on them. It's wild.
But I mean, like any grade school coach has yelled at their players. It's considered, and people celebrate that because it's considered character building. It's what it is fake adversity to mature you, because it doesn't matter who wins a game of basketball, but it's about hard work, discipline, practice, and overcoming adversity. So you get yelled at.
I can tell you, in college American football, people love clips. They don't get mad at these. They love them. They love the clip where the legendary college coach, some like, fucking Nick Saban guy, doesn't just pat the player on the back when he fucks up. When the guy fucks up, like, he like tries to showboat and it doesn't get the touchdown as a result. Mate, they love it when they push them in the chest and go, what are you fucking doing out there, man? What are you doing? They love that because, like that coach fucking's a legend, mate. He's going to make sure this guy doesn't fuck around. People vibe with that. I know what you mean. The real giveaway about this wasn't we found out more about Inspired. We found out what giga losers the people on Twitter in the West are. They're just the biggest pussies of all time. Fucking hell.
And also people, it's not even just that, Thorin. It's that they're pussies with no curiosity. They're not like, I'm going to watch this video and then click on the other video to spend 30 minutes to find out maybe more of the truth.
Yeah. No, like, I got enough drama. That's my dopamine. Cool. Fine, toxic piece. I'm out. Also, this is why you'll never win in the West. You're all like, hey, we have Inspired though. And then you're like, no, but he's toxic and he's the reason they don't win. Fuck, you know what? Like, bring back Mike Young, bring back the NA players, bring them in the door. There you go, sit them down. You guys play league. We need it to be all happy families. Oh, what's that? At the end, you got banged out by some Chinese team that probably like a fucking we're having like a 2-on-2 death match before the fucking finals. Yeah, why did they win? What's going on? This is weird, mate. I'm not saying go full Van Tilly and smash up all the PCs and that. There's limits, there's still lines. But the point is, a bit of competitive fire, I appreciate that. I do.
That's right. It can improve your mental health, even if it looks like in the short term,
absolutely,
it's not improving anything at all. Which is why.
Do you know something? I'll give you some. Oh, go on. Sorry, you said it. Go on, keep going. I didn't hear the voice tone for a second.
Physical health.
Okay.
One thing you can do is try AG1, one of our sponsors that I've been using since we started getting sponsored by them on Power Spike and the Four Horsemen. So basically what it does is it's a green drink that combines multivitamin, pre and probiotics, superfoods, and antioxidants. So if you're already taking multivitamins, this will replace that. And you just jam it in some water, shake it up, and drink it in the morning. Also, I found that it's a good way just to drink like half a liter of water as soon as you wake up, which will refresh you. But it also has noticeably increased my energy. And on top of that, what I do is I also put in creatine in addition to the AG1. It doesn't have creatine in it. I add creatine supplements to it, so I can just kind of knock everything out right when I get up in the morning. So it's been a really good routine for me to get all of that. It just contains everything you might need that supplements what you may not be getting in your diet all of the time, and hopefully helps you have a little bit of a healthier life. And the original flavor has some like pineapple core in it and some vanilla, which I quite like, but it also comes in citrus, berry, and tropical these days. So they're vastly expanding the AG1 flavors, so you can have your choice. So AG1 has their best offer ever right now. If you head to drinkag1.com/summoning, you'll get the welcome kit, a boarding person hat, a bottle of the vitamin D3 plus K2, which I also drop in there. It comes with a little eyedropper. AG1 flavor sampler, and you'll get to try their new sleep supplement AGZ for free, which can help with your nightly routine. That's AG1, drinkag1.com/summoning for $126 in free gifts for new subscribers. So good deal for you guys to try it out, and they'll send it to you. It comes in the like regular tubs that you can get, but it also has travel packets. So if you're ever away, you can order like the 30 days of travel packets, like individual supplements. So you can just grab some and take them with you. It's pretty convenient. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Good stuff.
By the way, I do also think the vitamin D dropper is really useful, because if you don't like pills or you want the people like that to supplements, you just put a drop on your tongue. It's easy as fuck. And obviously it tastes like almost nothing. By the way, I actually have an example for you where we had a similar scandal in Counter-Strike last year, but it actually again showed that the people who comment online are just massive pussies who will never understand competitive drive. So Zonic, the most winningest coach in the history of Counter-Strike, has won 5 majors, and he even won one of them with a totally separate team with a couple of his same players, but like an international squad. And then Lars Robel is his like performance coach, and he was there for most of the Astralis ones, but not the first one. So he's also won many, many championships in multiple different teams. When they were with Falcons, when Falcons was a not very good roster in CS at the beginning of last year, they failed to make it through the RMR to get to the major, and they released a documentary, like a vlog type thing. And unfortunately, the way they edited this clip made everyone hate it, but it actually was very telling. What they did was they had this thing where there was a young player who fucked up. He'd even fucked up in ways you'll never find out about. They're really bad in real life, and if you knew, you'd say get him out of esports. Never mind, shouldn't have fucked up in the game. But they did the thing where, because they couldn't say that on camera, they just made it about him having, changing his mouse or something, and they made the whole thing was about him fucking up. What they did is, to a fan, because it was edited, they thought the team just surrounded a rookie and bullied him. They all took turns to bully him. Actually, what they were doing was Lars Robel, multiple major winning sports psychologist / performance coach, has a concept he uses in his teams called unpacking the backpack, where when you feel like the team is in moments of crisis, everyone gets in a circle and you go in a circle, round the circle, and everyone unpacks whatever is bothering them. They say what's on their mind. Is this person not doing his job as the leader? Is this person over here fucking up and being too slack with his practice? Should maybe you call yourself up for something? The point is, you get it off your chest so that now we can resolve the crisis. You feel like you're being heard, and you can play the match and you can win the tournament in that perfect world. Everyone in CS also just went crazy on this, acting like they were just abusing this guy. Mate, that is a very valid sports psychology technique. I think that's a banger. Like, I could totally see with the right culture why that would work. And lastly, I'll just say this. There's barely any North Americans in that fucking room for FlyQuest. Those are Europeans using a European method of how you resolve things. And at the time, you know what? They were also getting European results. Just going to say it. Just going to say it.
Yeah. And I do want to talk about the inspired off-season move as well, because people might not understand, Okay. So just because, look, here's the truth about LCS. Obviously, the teams know that, as we discussed earlier in this episode, that the English language viewership has cratered. But You know, they're not going to say that straight up to fans. However, there have been many salary cuts for players within the LCS. In fact, many players in the LCS this upcoming year will be on $65,000 a year, which is the league absolute minimum. It's the league minimum.
I think it was like 4 years ago, there was academy players who made 100K.
Yep.
100K to be an academy.
So there are going to be a lot of players who are on absolute league minimum. Now, league minimum is still going to be pretty good because they're going to get free housing and food and everything paid for in Los Angeles. So it's not like they're paying for their own apartments or anything. So it's basically 65K in gravy. But still, that's nowhere near the $1 million that Bjergsen used to get paid to be on Team Liquid, right? When they had their whatever $6.8 million roster or whatever it was. So, you know, a lot of teams are cutting back. The question is, and I will tell you guys straight up, Lyon outbid everybody for Inspired. Straight up. That's why he's there. Nobody gives a shit about Lyon. It's not like Inspired thinks, oh, yeah, Lyon's going to totally, you know, be the team that wins the LCS. They just paid more money.
By the way, what is the backstory on that org? Did they have some like super millionaire fucking benefactor or something? What is the story?
I don't know why they suddenly have a lot of money, Thorin, but I will say the question is, why in 2026, in a crashing viewership league, in a game that is dying in North America, what is the goal of paying Inspired a bunch of money? Okay, so you win LCS, Lyon. Now what? Explain to me how that makes you money? Because even when LCS was at its peak, the only way it made people money was it made them more venture capital. So maybe the owners of Lyon are just loaded and this is what they're doing for fun, in the same way that T1 and HLE are for fun spends for really rich people, which is exactly what they are, guys. They're not attempting to be real businesses. They are billionaire toys, T1 and HLE at this point in time. So it's possible that Lyon is that. But then my question is, why wasn't Lyon spending money last year or 2025 when they got in? You know, where were they when they could have bought like an LTA slot or whatever, right? So it's a very weird thing that's going on, but it is important to note that this is them outbidding everybody else for Inspired at the end of the day. So there's my little rant on why Inspired is there and how it doesn't make any sense.
It does make sense because at the time, people's actual assumption, because here's the problem, Monty, you know the way fans are, they assume whoever the top teams are just have all the money. So they assume FlyQuest has like the same money as Team Liquid, has the same money as Cloud9. They assume everyone has the same money, right? So what they thought is the reason Inspired left is he must be getting the most cracked out roster of all time. So they looked like, oh, wait a minute, that Saint guy in mid, maybe he's like the secret. Oh, Berserker's coming back. Like, bro, if you actually look at the roster, this roster looks worse than the FlyQuest roster. It's all right. It's like, you know, there's some interesting angles there. That Isles guy was just always whatever for me. Like, it's just an all right roster. It has some potential, but it's not some super team. Come on. Yeah, and look, I get it, by the way. Inspired comes from Poland, and he used to play in the LEC for fucking Rogue. You're not getting paid much at that time. He was living in Germany. He now lives in LA. He's played for FlyQuest and got all the championships. Spoiler, this is how you do it in sports. When you're the best player, you get the championships. That's when you move and get the big contract, bro. That's when someone will pay the most possible. He's essentially got the max contract. I'll bet he has a fucking outrage. Mate, he deserves it all. He's earned it. Whatever he's making now.
Yeah.
Mate, when you go back to Poland, you're a little billionaire, mate. Enjoy it.
I don't blame Inspired. You know, he absolutely should take the bag from the dying esport while he has a chance to take the bag.
Absolutely.
The players who didn't take the bag when it was even bigger were dumb. Basically, you know, the players ended up very well in the entire situation of who got the actual cash from esports, because it wasn't the teams, it was the publishers and the players. And so he absolutely should take that and live the rest of his days in happiness.
And here's the thing. I've always hated that all the junglers just get pushed around because there's always 2 out of the 3 laners that are like, why didn't you come to my lane? Because they want you to be in 3 places at once. So I like the fact Inspired flips the dynamic. He's the Chad jungler. He's the jungler that understands that when you play jungle at the highest level, you're playing StarCraft, bro. Those laners are just like fucking, they are NPCs, bro. Bro, just lane the fucking matchup properly. I'll come to your lane and decide when you get to get the kill. I'll tell you when to come for the objectives. games. And I tell you what, you will fucking do what I say, or you'll be off this team so fucking quick. I'll pull out that fucking phone and call Nuke Duck tomorrow. That's what I like. I like the idea. Inspired is the fucking Chad, mate. He was never just like, yeah, oh, sorry, sir, I'll be there at 3:28 on your wave. Like, he's the guy like, I'll come if I see your waves ready. And until I shut the fuck up while I clear.
Well,
I'm over here playing chess. You're playing checkers, homie.
You know, if I'm inspired and Busio is piecing out to Carmine Corp, why would I stay on FlyQuest? Because, if I'm inspired, I have to live through Busio being terrible, and choking at the major tournaments that they went to, just derping in lane and ruining the entire map state. So, it ruins my jungle pathing. He had to live through all of that. And to his credit, I think he probably helped a lot develop synergy with Busio. Busio played really well this year. Sure. Busio was great. He became a very strong player eventually, but I think Inspired had to do a lot of hand holding to get him there. And if you're gonna hand hold somebody new, because FlyQuest wants to bring on another rookie, why not just go to Lyon and make the bag instead?
By the way, it was also implied in the off season by the Sheep Esports people that he Inspired even inquired with G2, is there a chance I can join you? So it's not like he didn't try to get to a sick roster, but once you can't, the next best option is get paid. Yeah, I'm with you. Absolutely.
And especially if you're already like living in LA or whatever, what's the point of moving?
Exactly.
I'm no LA fan, but I'd pick it over Berlin.
No, I've always said, if you haven't noticed, you think a lot of people are just going to go and do the Febvin and go there for 1 year or 2 years. I won't say certain names, but there's been some great Europeans. I've been like, mate, you've even won the championship. Why don't you just come back to LEC? You could be on like a Worlds. So they just tell me, one, I've almost got the green card. And two, mate, when you've lived in LA, I don't want to go and fucking be in Berlin. Like, the fucking blows. Like, again, without naming names, I've got all the fucking fangirls, Koreatown's right there. It's fucking sunny every day. You wake up in Berlin, it's like fucking tears gone cold, the rain on the fucking windows. You go to the LEC studio with 200 Carmi Cock fans, like, you will die in French or whatever, like fucking, yeah, I know. I think I'll stay in LA, mate. I was having a good time out there. I was enjoying it. I'm on Santa Monica Beach, motherfucker. I'm running past fucking some 80s Baywatch model running, hey, waving to me as I go past. You know what? Maybe I will stay in LTA. Exactly. I get it, Inspired. I get it, mate.
So yeah, that's the story behind what's going on over in the LCS. Also, I saw that Sheep Esports leaks the thing that I leaked like on this show 2 years ago, year and a half ago, where I said that Riot had been trying to upgrade the engine to League of Legends.
Oh, League of Legends 2. Yeah.
Which, I mean, they're not going to call it League of Legends 2, but I don't think. That sounds stupid. But, I just think it's funny because
I think they should call it League of Legends All-Stars.
As I said before 2025, because remember the producer of the game was tweeting like 2025 is the year that League of Legends changes forever. And nothing really happened, by the way, guys. But I told you before this year started that nothing would happen because the engine update was delayed. But they had been showing people the engine update internally, and so they were planning on doing something with it, and then it got delayed. But I just don't see how, if they release it in 2026, what is the method through which many more people play League of Legends again?
So, Monty, I know the term we need. We need to introduce this term, and once we do, it'll revolutionize the industry, right? I've struggled to explain to people many, many times that a game even like League began as a grassroots phenomenon. The esports was put on top of it. You can't top-down make it. It's why when people do that thing, they do it in my game as well, mate. In Counter-Strike, when the Mongols from Mongolia do well, they're like, this could change the whole Asian region. Like, no, just the Mongols team. Like, I'm sorry, there aren't going to be 2 million kids start playing because that happened, right? Because they're not already watching. So you're ready for the term. You're going to love it when I tell you it. We need to use the same term as for streaming. The question is this, Monty, what's the discovery for League of Legends? Yep. How does the fan, who's the casual how does the 15-year-old next year discover League of Legends when it changes?
And also,
how did they do it?
And also,
because I don't know the mechanism, but I don't think there is one personally.
Nobody would say the following, Thorin. Let's slap a new engine on StarCraft 2 and RTS is coming back, baby. You know what I mean? Like,
no.
Just factually, MOBAs are kind of an old genre at this point in time because the fundamental
Course.
MOBA technology is based off of RTS technology, which is dead. MOBAs are just RTS games with more characters in them. It's an isometric view. You know what I mean? Like, people are not excited about this anymore. Nobody is out there saying, let's make a super graphically advanced RTS and all the kids are going to play it. They're not. That's not what's going to happen. So I don't understand the point of updating the graphics because it doesn't solve the fundamental issues, which is that kids are not interested in playing it. New graphics it'll attract some people probably, but it's not going to be the phenomenon it was in 2010, right?
Also, though, one won't
And
be able to play on a bad PC, by the way. If you're on some shit PC in a bad
sure.
country,
I mean, Riot's very good at optimization.
Oh,
So I do think obviously the technical requirements would be higher, but I do think that they will make it so people in Asia can play with shit PCs. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like the barrier to entry is still high because if you want to redo League of Legends, you actually just need to destroy half of the characters in the game and start over. You
Oh,
know,
I agree.
you need to go back down to there were 30 when the game was
By the way,
released. I
that's a
think
banger idea. Like, think about this, Monty. The first thing you would immediately do for triage is just take champions that'll never make sense. Like, take Garen out the game. You know what I mean? Take fucking. There's about
garbage.
20 you'd take straight off the board that never get used. You know,
Yeah,
like
Garen's just Garen's not
clear
even
the
an
space.
interesting archetype. He's just man
Yes.
with sword. It's terrible.
Clear the space for some new designs. Let's do it. And
Yeah, but literally, like, you would have to just delete this game probably down to 50 champions so it's approachable. Because I can tell you from starting to play this game at 30 champions, it was very approachable, right? The learning curve was not super steep. But they're not going to do that, Thorin, because just like in CS:GO to CS2, they had to keep all the skins intact.
Yes,
because
that's the
people
problem.
are going to. You can't.
Oh, they'll lose their shit, man. They'll lose their
You
shit.
can't sacrifice your current whales to try and get new whales. That's a dumb business move.
Yes.
So you have to keep the current whales happy. So you can't just explode all of their skins.
Yep.
So you have to have 170 characters in this game. I just don't think they have the balls to be confident enough to say we are going to hard reset our game.
By the
So they have
way,
to
you know,
pull
you know, fans
skins over.
love to say, you know, fans always love to say you have to adapt. I'm going to tell you right now, Monty, I don't care which player we're talking about. If you still have Fearless and we ever get over 200 champions, the game is unplayable almost at that point in time. You just can't master it, bro. You could never, ever be good enough and know all the matchups and every skill. You just couldn't. I don't care even if you Chovy, mate. You could never do it at that point. You've made the game impossible.
Yeah, and the thing about moving from Counter-Strike to CS2 is that, you know, there aren't that many guns, and all the aesthetic components are just on the guns that
it's 95%
already
the
exist.
Same game, or maybe even 98% or something.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you know, all of the aesthetics of the game and the thing that people bought transfers over without if you reduced it, it doesn't reduce the complexity of the game and get new people in there. Because CS at its core is not a very complex game to learn, right? The on-ramp is very smooth.
I'll just point this out. Just like League, it's a free game too. So you just basically one day CS:GO just upgraded to Counter-Strike 2. We're all on Counter-Strike 2 now, yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, that now has even higher player base than it did before.
CS is one of the few games that hits player peaks still.
But there is no way in hell that League of Legends in 2026 is going to hit a peak that was higher than in 2015 with an engine update.
It's why you're right, by the way. The most base take that everyone ignores is not even an esports one. The craziest golden goose that Riot just wasted and then killed was fucking Arcane. Mate, that was actually a real on-ramp that people would dream of that in a different esport. You could never have it. You could never have a show about Kerrigan that gets everyone to start playing StarCraft 2. Like, you could actually have on-ramped a bazillion K-pop fans. You really could have done it, mate. That could have been the cultural way into this game. Like, you could have made it where there's a season 4 or whatever coming out of Arcane, and before it comes out, a champion comes out in the game, and everyone joins, and you have an in-world event, and then, mate, there's so many obvious things you could have done. You had to smash it.
And like, are they going to update the engine without updating the client, which is terrible?
Yeah, big question. By the way, there's one of the worst things about League, mate. The amount of pauses are fucking unbelievable. Even at Worlds, Monty, the amount of tech pauses. Like, there was a pause, by the way. I forget which match it was in. Might even have been at Worlds. That was like a 3-hour pause or something. The player just had to sit there like... Because remember, you can't talk to me. Just thinking. I think they gave him a break at one point, but that's still mental in it. I know. That's longer than the game lasted, you mad fuck.
We should talk about the coaching thing too, because that's the thing where they're considering letting coaches.
Oh, right. You mean basically,
game.
Monty, this is why this show is fucking sick, because we have already technically talked about every topic possible already, and we're just referencing ourselves. I used to tell you, Monty, that the whole thing about League of Legends that makes it unique compared to a Counter-Strike is in Counter-Strike, it's more like NFL. Obviously, first of all, you have the timeout, but back in the day, obviously you could talk, but in the freeze time, right, you have a chance to reset the play, as it were, and call the next one. But that changes the whole dynamic, because then it becomes a coach's or an in-game leader's chess game. I've always said in League, even though it would make the level of macro way better, what would instantly ruin the game is if you could do like a timeout, or the coach could just talk and go rotate to Baron now. Because that half of the game is the fact that when you're in the moment as the player, it's really hard to do it. There's another thing, by the way. If you want to give Faker mad props, shit like that is where he is unbelievable now. Things like, what's the key call in the game that turns the game? That's the sort of shit that no one else can do that Faker does. It would. It low-key would, mate. It would
his in-game leadership is his most valuable trait.
All these people, all the great leaders would just also go down 10%.
How would you even really do this? Because you would have to, like in CS, the coaches are behind the players so that they don't have more information than the players. But right now, the coaches are watching the game broadcast in the room.
Yep. They're seeing all the fog of war, everything. It's nuts, isn't it?
Yeah. So you would have to make the coach like. And this is what I hate about Fearless, is because you spend a decade telling players you just have to master this many champions to be a great pro player, and now you're like, oh no, now the great pro player has to know more champions, but maybe have less peek at them. So you're changing the pro player skill. It changes the coach's skill if they have to go from watching a game where they have full information to watching a game where they see it only through fog of war. Like, it's a different kind of person. And it's a different skill who could talk in the game or pause the game. And then also, how do you do your post-match breakdowns if you don't have complete information about what happened? Right? Sure, it helps you in the game talk to your team, but after the game, in between games 2 and 3 of a best of 5, you may not have any knowledge about where the other team's position was. So you can't impart the same kind of knowledge to the team that you would previously. It's a very weird problem to have.
I actually have no idea how you're going to implement this, man. I don't see how.
I mean, and to be clear, they absolutely should not implement this, in my opinion.
No, I'll give you another example. It actually is one of the reasons I've always thought these pauses ruin the game. Because the second you pause it, Monty, even if I can't talk to my teammates, I'm thinking about what just happened, though. I'm thinking about the setups of the lanes. I'm thinking about who has what item. I'm thinking in a way I can't in a normal game that's live. Like, unfortunately, anything like that will throw the game off. So I'm with you. How will they do it? Surely you can't talk the whole game. You can't really do a timeout. Like, what's this going to be like? You tune in for a minute and do something? It just sounds like scuffed already.
Yeah, exactly. You just enter comms for a minute while the game is live, or you really don't want to pause, because what would the rules about pausing be? You have to be 15 seconds away from the last interaction between players, so you have to have a stopwatch, and you're like, oh, I'm 15 seconds out from that gank that just happened, or a player that got caught out, or the last time a player auto attacked another player was 15. I mean, how do you even implement these rules about when to pause? And then also, the game has enough, like you say, technical delays already. There's so much downtime because you're sitting there just like waiting for draft to finish, and then there's the countdown timer to get into the game, and then there's the start of laning phase where you're doing level 1s before you actually get into lane, and then there's the endless like vision games that take place. I just really struggle to feel it. Just makes the game seem even more cumbersome. And a big problem that I think League of Legends has from a modern perspective is that, sure, they've shortened game length, but the all in of from a game starting and draft starting till the end of the game, which might be 35 minutes in, it's like at minimum a 45-minute experience to watch or play a game of League of Legends, which compared to anything else in gaming right now is way too long. Oh,
easily. I mean, it's why I'm look, you finally had to join my world, mate. It's why I have watched so little League of Legends live compared to VODs. I watched the finals and
Yeah.
things like that, where it was a moment and spectacle. But if it was just a regular season game, mate, because every
You
single
can't.
time in that VOD I ever hit that pause and I could just scroll forwards, oh, it's glorious, mate. I feel like I'd be a fool to have watched it live. You know what I mean? I feel like jokes on me. I'm glad I got the VOD. I skipped through all that shit.
I mean, when I was doing last year, when I was doing my bangers only, I could condense watching basically all of the important games worldwide into 25 or 30 hours a week, where if you co-streamed that, you'd be in for like 80. Just because there's so much downtime between games, and if there's a boring part in the beginning of the game, you can just make it faster, and then you can just replay the stuff that's actually interesting.
Yeah, that's also based as fuck. I agree. I tend to like go back on a moment and like, how did they set up for that? Like fucking objectives. But cool being able to rewind as well. It's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, so if you're actually doing hardcore analysis, it's much better to do that way. But just the idea of them adding more time bloat to League of Legends is very unappealing to me. Even if it, like you say, it would make the macro better, I just don't think the price is worth paying. And also, again, you're just changing the skills that players have developed. Like now you just don't have to have a brain to be a player. Like, I don't know. I think having a valuable shot caller is a really interesting part of League of Legends. It's why I love players like Faker Now or Peanut. I like the players who are the masterminds in the servers.
Matter, Core JJ, Doinby, High, fucking go down the line. The Perks. These people, half of their legacy is this aspect. It's not just the game, even.
Yeah. I don't
Mako,
like
there's a million of them, mate.
Yeah, I don't like it. I struggle with thinking.
I mean, I'd
this
even
is
say
some kind of good idea.
What's funny is even the fucking NFL has a play clock and shit like that. They can't just talk the whole time. They can't just go, get out of the way. He's coming behind you. Hey, the fucking entrance is behind you. I can't talk the whole time, can you? Fucking hell.
Also, the NFL or Counter-Strike tack shooters, like they have natural breaks for this to happen. And
exactly. There's automatic downtime. Exactly.
There's an excitement that builds when a timeout happens, because you expect something really cool to happen, like, oh, the next play is their big strat, right? But if the game pauses, League of Legends is persistent, so it's not like, oh, we're going to do a big buy and then we're going to execute our super cool play. Like, yeah, you go back and get some items, I guess, but it's not like you're still going to have level discrepancies. If you're losing, you're still going to have economic discrepancies. Whereas in CS or Valorant, like there's a push pull to the economy. So a team that's losing could have an economic advantage in this round. They take a timeout to like execute their best play. That's exciting.
I'll give you another example of where it would ruin the game. Another thing that an individual player can be judged on, it's one of LS's favorite metrics to show his understanding of the game, is when he chooses to base and go back. That's his understanding of the wave, of the power spikes. If the coach could just tell you, okay, now top laner, go back on this way, then half of that's just not even cool anymore, mate. It's just you just be told you just have a guy calculating the numbers like a nerd and telling you when to do it. Like there's nothing intuitively sick about that.
Yeah. No, I agree. So I'm not. I hope they don't do it, because I feel like that's.
Then again,
it would just be boring.
Remember, this is how you know Riot's desperate as fuck, bro. Remember, they're also doing that thing where they implement the WASD. So if you're the ADC, bro, we all lose the eye now, homie. We all input buffering now, homie. We're all just demons in the fucking. Listen, I remember the days when you had to be shit on Vayne, tumbling to get your head banged off. Shout out Doublelifted about half his career. That was fucking sick. That was dope. There was no WASD. I was never ruler back in the day, mate. I'm ready to be now. Bring it on.
Yeah,
Between that and my Wooting keyboard, I'll be fucking.
That's right.
I'll be like peak death. You're not even going to be able to touch me. Yeah, exactly. Not on this episode, but it did get sent on.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know. So I don't think that's a really serious. I didn't take it that was a really serious consideration, but I did see that Riot was mulling it over. But I think they probably just threw it out there, and I don't think they'll actually go through with it. But Riot
also does do that Trump thing where they just throw ideas out and see how it's responded. And if people love it, they're like, yeah, we always want that. And if they don't, they're like, well, we're not really going to do it, guys. Calm down. They do that fucking gaslighting shit, don't they? It's true. That is their dynamic, mate.
Definitely. And I do, my new conspiracy theory, Thorin, is that they have been saving double elimination for Worlds until the viewership goes down, so that the next year they can introduce double elim and then viewership will go up just because there's more games.
Or like I told you on Twitter in that epic fucking tweet, or when Faker retires, then you may as well just have it at that point. Now you need it to actually be good. Yeah. Now it's actually a good thing we have.
I actually, my tinfoil hat theory is that they've just been keeping it in the pocket for deploying.
Also, I've got
an
an angle for you. Even though technically League of Legends was made in America, it is owned by Tencent from China. China, right now, hear my message. At the moment, you just can't beat Faker at World. It doesn't happen for you. You don't win the Worlds. Donald Trump has shown you how you can actually beat the Koreans. Since you own the game, you need to place a tariff on Korean teams. So every time they win with their players, you will benefit. You take that money into your economy and spend it on your players, and it will offset the advantage. That's all I'm saying. Or they'll have to let the players come to your team. All I'm saying is the fucking whatever, the Cheeto Emperor, he laid the blueprint for you. It's right there. He's doing it to you. Now do it to the Koreans. Thorin low-key attempted to start a trade war between China and Korea. Listen, I've done worse things in esports. So don't worry about it.
People have accused you of far worse. I've accused you of far worse. All right.
I mean, the
do you have any other
I've
topics?
probably been killing esports for about 25 years at this point in time. Games bigger than ever, of course. I think that's
do you have any other topics, or should we do some viewer questions?
No, let's go to viewer questions. Do it.
Before we do
first.
Yeah, we have one more sponsor for you guys, by the way. My Ridge wallet is actually in the other room, so perhaps, yeah, you've got one. Good. I have actually the key holder right here. Now, I live in Korea, so I actually don't use keys because all locks are electronic. I literally do not possess them. But when I go back to the States, I will be filling this one up with actual keys. Keeps it nice. But the Ridge wallet, as you guys know, nice and thin. Mine's made out of carbon fiber. I've been using it since I got it. It is effectively indestructible. It's lightweight. It'll replace that incredibly old, tattered, super thick bifold that you have that looks ugly in your jean pocket. This is svelte and sexy. And you can put up to, 12, I think, cards in it, which is more than I ever use, but they just pop right out via the tab. It's still very thin, even with the 5 or 6 that I have with like my driver's license and a couple credit cards. Yeah. So very, very reasonably sized. And they also have a lifetime warranty. So if I don't even know how you would break this thing, but if you did, you have the option to replace it. They constantly have, also like different designs. So they have new designs, and they have like an NFL tie-in right now. So if you have a favorite NFL team, but they have different sports tie-ins or other intellectual property tie-ins and specials. So you guys can check that out as well. This a fantastic product. I guess they have over 50 colors and styles to choose from right now. I guess they have, in addition to every NFL team, every Major League Baseball team, they have college teams in there for American universities. They have over 100,000 5-star reviews. And again, it's Christmas time, so probably there is a man in your life that could use a wallet upgrade. They also have some really sick power banks that have like MagSafe, so they like attach to your phone.
And they have the wires in it already.
Yeah.
It comes with the wires, yeah.
And they have backpacks. They've got a lot of really cool, like very modern, tech stuff. So you guys, for a limited time right now, Ridge is having their huge holiday sale. Head to ridge.com. Get up to 47% off your order. This is by far the biggest discount that they've given all year. Ridge.com for up to 47% off your order during their biggest sale of the year. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support us and tell them that we sent you. And you can go to ridge.com/SI for this one. So the code is SI, and tell them Summoning Insight sent you guys. Again, these are like the Raycons, the Ridge, the Aura. These are all just great holiday gifts for people. People will love them. Promise you. I use all these things all the time. So yeah, we'll take a quick break, guys. And when we get back, we'll do viewer questions. Hello, here we go. Viewer questions. I'm back. Some of you may have asked questions for me. We'll find out. This is for our LFN crew members who are Discord subscribers. If you subscribe to Discord, which you will get the incalculable benefits and sublime feeling of knowing that you actually support the shows that you care about. So we really appreciate you. But also, you get to do cool things like suggest hot takes for Hot Take Point Made, which is fun. And we'll eventually do more stuff for you guys in the future, like ask more questions on shows. We got some ideas that probably will happen soon, actually. Okay. So what rumored roster that didn't form were you most excited for 2026? Well, that's a bad question for me because I have no idea what rosters were rumored to form this year for next year.
This year isn't the best year to say it because this year the rumors weren't as good. Put it this way,
of all time.
I'll give you, if you mean for this year, I'll tell you what it is actually. The rumor was, because I wanted Tarzan to come and replace fucking Canyon in Gen G or Handle Life going to the Peanut. The rumor was maybe it could have been like Tarzan and Kale in Gen G. That would be like from anyone's legend, but it didn't happen. This didn't anyone's legend. If you want to do all time, then I got some selfish ones. Like, for example, you remember that year when the T1 was winning worlds and changing top laner, and my boy Flame went for the trial. All I'm saying is Flame plus Faker. Then we'd all have been loving that one. Then he could have won worlds. Didn't happen, sadly. There's a few like that. There's a few European super teams.
I mean, Scout was supposed to come to Korea in like 2022, and play on KT, which would have been at that time really exciting, I think. What org was the best to its players and staff? I don't know. There are a lot of good orgs. I mean, Gen G is a very good org to its players right now. I'm sure T1 is a very good org to its players. In terms of NA, like I think most of the teams are very good.
This will upset people, Monty, because one, we did technically at one point in time, Cloud9 funded this show, and Monty's worked with them, and they just had a few scandals like the Jojo thing or whatever. So people have always wanted to try and make Cloud9 the next TSM. But all I'll say is, over the whole history of all the games, I have found Jack from Cloud9 to be one of the most magnanimous owners to his players of almost any owner. True. Like, put it this way, in Counter-Strike, he let Stewie 2K, who just won the major, get a giant contract extension and then leave the team like 3 months later to a Brazilian team. Like, he just let him do that. Like, he didn't even say, I've got you on a contract, bitch. Like, he just let him go. So there's a bunch of times when he's done stuff like that, where he's just sort of like allowed people out without buyouts or just leave the team. He's done some crazy ones like that you just would not see.
I will just say this. I will not be direct about this or name it, but I will say he also has taken some fat PRLs to make sure other people who are much more deserving of PRLs got W's instead.
Right.
Like, people were shitty to him or his company and made him or Cloud9 look bad publicly, and he could have 100% revealed a bunch of stuff that people behind the scenes knew, where he was definitely not at fault, or at least definitely the least bad offender. And he did not do that. So he's eaten some L's he shouldn't have, in my opinion. And I would not have if I were him.
I also think in general, look, it depends how much they mean by like nice or whatever. I think Team Liquid has been one of the most professional organizations to ever be in esports. I think they're just fabulous in all the games. It doesn't seem like there's any real scandals for all these guys. They just do a great job.
Yeah, I mean, T1 actually does a very good job of managing their players as well, and giving them good facilities. Gen G obviously gives them great facilities, and I think Gen G, the proof is in the pudding for Gen G, because Gen G doesn't pay the highest salaries, and yet they retain this insane roster because that the roster likes playing for Gen G.
And it's basically implied that the reason why, like, by the way, guys, are you naive? You think Gen G Arnold doesn't understand he could make Chovy K-popified and just make fucking print money on the side? But he knows that Chovy's the kind of guy who's like, just leave me to play the game, bro. I don't want to do that. So he doesn't do it. He really just lets Chovy play the game, and he doesn't like whore him out over everything like they do with certain. He doesn't say, I'm going to oil up fucking Chovy and then release a calendar or something, does he? So I think actually that's pretty cool. If I had the best player in the world, bro, and I'm paying a mega box and we're losing worlds, I'd go, time for you to have a little media offensive in this offseason, mate. You're going to be everywhere, homie. You're going to be on Harper's Bazaar. You're going to be meeting fucking iShow Speed. I'd have this guy fucking ass out.
I mean, to be fair, I actually think it's a mistake that they don't push Chovy harder, because I think I honestly think a lot of the hate around Chovy comes from the fact that he is so mysterious that like, you know, he doesn't have as many fans as he could. And I don't think you have to go like full K-pop, but I do think it is a mistake to not
Here's his problem,
reveal
Monty.
more about the team.
Chovy appears like the character in the shonen anime. That's the genius archetype, who was just from like the, you know, well, like the lineage that were always great fighters. But you haven't humanized him. So you've actually just made it like you want that guy to fail because he feels like the high school quarterback that pissed you off. You know, it's that shit. So people pray on his downfall.
I think a lot of people would not say all the shit they would about Chovy if there was more of an effort from Genji.
Imagine if there was a documentary when they lost, you saw him cry, and then for the next month, even though it's off-season, play like League and grind it. So you'd start rooting for him like a motherfucker, mate. That human aspect would hook you, yeah.
What is the single worst decision Riot made in the early part of LoL Esports? The people they hired. Done. And how has that decision impacted things until today? Those people are still there.
I still think the worst thing they ever did was totally, I know they let the odd IM, but like shut out the third party and that part of the circuit. I always thought the most logical thing you should have done is this, Monty. I've now realized I know more about the business. Maybe going pure third party a la Counter-Strike is too far the other way. There's a reason why a lot of orgs aren't in Counter-Strike or in these other games of franchise leagues. I think the compromise for me is obviously that you have a season, but it's something like a third or half the year, and that's like LEC, LCA, and then the rest you have it be an IEM and a Blast and an MLG. I think that would be like the sweet spot for League. It would be so dope. I think that would be amazing, mate. And they could have done that from day one. They already had all the people wanted to work with them. Everyone wanted to work with them.
It also would have made, as we discussed earlier, the rest of the calendar more competitive. It would have made Worlds more competitive because teams would have the option to practice and boot camp more. And like, you know, the thing that sucks is that, so for example, teams are boot camping in Korea now for Kespa Cup, but the game's going to change massively because Riot changes the game and they go back to their domestic regions and then everybody's in isolation learning how to play the game. What if you had an open circuit for the first part of the year, the first 6 months after they change the game, where the open circuit really means everybody's in Korea, practicing in Asia, but you fly out to maybe tournaments all over the world. And then, so that way everybody gets an understanding of this, like this year of the game. And then you play 3 months or 4 months of your domestic league, and then you boot camp and then you go to Worlds. Then all of a sudden, I think the skill gap closes pretty significantly.
Yeah. Sounds dope.
But really, it's just the problem is that the people who designed all the garbage were there very early on, and then they just never left the company and never got fired for some reason. So really, it was and then they set the entire sycophantic culture of the LoL Esports department. So unfortunately, like you just need to undo that. It would solve a lot of problems. Yamato/Monty, what is the worst excuse you've heard from one of your players to justify their inting? Oh, I that's more of a Yamato question. I don't even remember, honestly.
Justify what? They're
inting.
Oh, inting.
Like if they're playing bad, like the excuse about why
I'll tell you. Look, the classic one, Monty. This is just a famous one from players. Is the idea that it's like positive
limit
inting.
Testing.
That it's like I had to do it to like, you know, set him up for later, so then I get him on this. And it's like
or just limit testing.
That. Sure, but those are always like corp. You know what I mean?
If you gave a team a logo/name rebrand, what team would you choose and what type of changes to the logo/name would you make? Oh, well, I got several of these. Obviously, I care about this a lot. Gen G is a fucking terrible name. I mean, there's so many actually just terrible names, but Generation Gamer. The thing about esports teams and brands is that they vastly overestimate how much the like average fan cares about their name or wouldn't still support them if they were something else. You know, it's like if Gen G changed their name. So first off, it sounds like Jaji, which is vagina in Korean. So it's not even like super good in Korean.
New pussy out at Worlds. That's all I'm going to say.
And then all I'm going to say is if you look at their back-to-back G logos,
okay.
If you look at the back-to-back G logos, it sure looks like a negative space of a uterus in the middle. So it even looks kind of like a vagina. And I just think, and then what they've done is they've just created a bunch of tiger imagery.
What Monty would rename it is, just be more blunt, Gash Gaming. There you go. That's the new name. Let's just be upfront with it.
But,
you know?
but it's like,
put your V signs up, everyone.
So let me just ask you a question. Do you like, do you have more, do people have more of a positive affinities for like the Rocks Tigers as a brand or Gen G as a brand? Now, they both have the tiger imagery, but Rocks Tigers just name themselves Tigers. And so why doesn't Gen G just name themselves? I just don't understand what the fuck the brand Gen G is supposed to do. It's terrible. It's awful. FlyQuest would be another one. So the lore behind FlyQuest is that Wes Edens, who's the billionaire who owns the Milwaukee Bucks, got into esports. So he's a traditional sports owner. His son, I guess, was in some kind of, I think, MMO, and his guild was called FlyQuest. So they just called the team FlyQuest because that was his gaming guild. And why? They don't own the team anymore. There is no inherent value to the name FlyQuest. I understand that people like their environmentalism nonsense, but you can have that with a brand that identifies better with that than whatever FlyQuest is supposed to be. And I think their brand messaging is all over the place anyway. So, for example, they did the Chinese, they did the snake uniforms because it's the year of the snake for Worlds, which is also what every team does every year. It's like, Team Liquid's been doing this, slap the Chinese zodiac sign on our jersey. But remember that you are not Chinese, okay? So if you are going to Worlds in China, why would you guys, the not Chinese team, be the one wearing the Chinese zodiac animal? And what does that have to do with FlyQuest as a brand? Is it a flying snake? Is it because it's environmental, it's an animal? Like, nothing about it makes sense. It's stupid.
And whenever I see that leaf, I just think of Bulbasaur. So it's bad marketing. They got there first.
That's true. It does look like the grass type Pokemon.
So that's the Pokemon.
You're absolutely right. So I just don't understand why does it have a leaf anyway if it's called FlyQuest? What do leaves have to do with flying or quest? I just don't get it. And it also has no sentimental value to the current owners nor towards any fan. G2 is obviously terrible. Gamers 2, and it's a samurai. The only person who ever leaned into the samurai was like Lothar or Roman, like dressing up as the samurai, but they haven't. I really wish G2, if you were going to do the samurai thing, like really lean into the samurai aesthetic.
Here's what you would vibe with. You need to even do it like you have ranks in the team. So Caps is the Shogun, and then someone else is like you could
have your fans. Cool. Have your fans wear the like clan flags with the G2 like logo on it, like do something fun with the samurai stuff, but they do nothing with it. It's just there existing. And also, what does G2 have to do with samurais? That's completely unclear.
You have to metaphorically commit seppuku.
That's right.
By the way, that's still the part about the Shogun TV show that's like almost too hardcore even for me. It's where they're just constantly turning to each other in arguments as way to one up each other, like, please allow me to commit seppuku immediately, my lord. He's like, not yet. You haven't earned this yet. It's so dark. Holy shit. And then, spoiler, that old guy does fucking just straight up do it.
Well, you should never watch Harakiri then, where you have to watch a guy kill himself with bamboo swords via seppuku. That's a rough one.
I actually think most of the fucking gaming things are asked though, especially because, as you say,
they're mostly
they never pick a theme that's cool and then lean into it. It's always like we pick the theme with just a random generic gaming team. Go, lol, we win. Haha. Like,
I mean, I've criticized it a million times, but Team Liquid's just a horse. What does that have to do? Like, and by the way, before people are like, well, actually, Monty, it was teamliquid.net, and it was the horses made out of water that were on the banner, and it's from Lord of the Rings. I know, but it's still stupid, guys. It's still stupid. It was always stupid. Why do we keep having the horse? Just name yourself a horse name, or name yourself Liquid, or like make a wave. I don't care. Just pick one. You know what I mean? Or look, if you're gonna go for seahorses, like Poseidon is the god of the sea, and he was also the god of horses, then lead into the Greek shit. Poseidon that shit. I don't know. Do something. No, they're just gonna make a million Marvel crossover uniforms as if that enhances their brand. I mean, all this stuff is bad. 100 Thieves, super annoying name. It's not 100 Thieves. It's not 100 Thieves. Nobody actually would look at the number 100. If you literally read the words 100 Thieves, you would just say 100 Thieves. Nobody says 100 Thieves.
Me. Yeah. There is no such thing as 100 thieves. How many? 100.
What is that?
100? No, definitely not 100. 200. 100. And it's written 100. It's 100. The number is 100.
Exactly.
Not
it doesn't
100.
say the word 100, which would be clear. It says 100 Thieves.
The problem with that one is if you know a little bit about who Nadeshot is as a person, I get it. You know, it's one of those fucking shower thoughts. That's somebody had like a shower beer after he was high, like 100 Thieves. Yeah, fucking go with it. Going out like that, slap that on there, send it off. You know.
I mean,
love it.
Dignitas, cool in theory, bad in practicality because nobody understands the Roman concept of Dignitas, and now it's just a suicide clinic in Switzerland. I mean, the better question is, what is a good? So Cloud9, I like Cloud9 a lot. First off,
Cloud9 from day one had that clever logo made of 9.
The logo is actually sick.
That's good, man. That's fucking legit.
Yeah.
And think about this, Monty. If I was to say to you, would you like to be on Cloud9? It's already got a whole fucking cultural association.
Yes. And
the color scheme is fantastic. That light blue with the white. It's actually a fabulous brand.
Yeah,
we sound like the worst shill glazers of all time for this episode. I've realized now, but whatever. It's all good. It's all good.
It wouldn't be what I would choose, but I do think that the Cloud9 brand has a unity to it that is very functional, and I do think their logo is baller. And I do think they have a unique color scheme. What other LCS teams are there? I mean, TSM and CLG were always terrible. Especially CLG's logo was so bad.
They also, if you're gonna be called Counter Logic Gaming, then have a quirky thing where you lean into that too. You should have been the ones pushing the meme of that's Counter Logic or whatever. Of course, the opposite happened. They never even did that. That was the fans. That was like Reddit that came up with that, mate. They should have leaned into it.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any brands that you actually like? Besides, there aren't that many that I actually enjoy.
Well, the joke is inadvertently, although I've told you, Monty, you know from the occult world, there's a lot of power in a name. If I was going to call a team that constantly veered between being world class and being shit, and you feel like you could die while you're on the ride, calling it K2 Rollster off like a roller coaster, that is the most cursed name ever. Your team has been a roller coaster forever. In a way, that's only good because of the thematic aspect. It's actually fucking mad in it. What's funny is, I'll tell you what, as much as they get a lot of shit, I think whenever it comes to memes and naming shit, I think the Chinese are fucking bangers, bro. Like, you think of look, it might sound silly now, but Royal Never Give Up is like a cool concept. You could have done a lot with that, you know? Some of those names over there, I think are pretty good. World Elite, that's a fucking dope name, bro. That's a fucking sick name. Yeah, some fucking banger. There's a few that are pretty good there.
A lot of the Korean names suck.
Because the problem is, Handball Life's a good example. It's like, it's a fucking insurance company. Like, that's not sexy, is it? You have one of the best rosters in the whole world with all millions of dollars. Like, Handball Life. Should be like Handball Death. We bring the death. Yeah, exactly. Fucking reverse it up, make it go dark or something. or make the meme like you're going to need a Handball Life policy after you play us or something. Do some fucking shit like that. Tie it in, tie it in.
More skits where they take out life policies on their opponents before games.
That would be sick. Yeah, like the Death Note, but you just sign in like insurance thing. Culpability, fucking up to $2 million at Worlds, exactly. Choking hazard, $2 million worth of up to insurance, something like that. Yeah, of course. Emergency
that actually would help the bread a lot. That would be funny.
Mate, everyone would love that. That'd be funny as fuck with it on Twitter.
So the last question. Top laner who's 0-3 before 10 minutes, mid laner hailed as the top 3 in the world by LS, promising ADC who never hit his full potential, and a world champion at support who role swapped from ADC after his passive Jhin play fell off. Why is the KT GM copying Los Ratones' homework this offseason?
Listen.
It's pretty funny.
Okay. Well played. You understood the audience. I get it. You understood the audience. The setup was good as well. Look, guys, KT is going through some kind of
data breach scandal right now. So I think that maybe they're not willing to spend a lot of money.
Imagine being BDD though, Monty. That's like, come on, surely I get up after that. After that one, you bring me all the players, right? I must be getting Viper next. And what is fucking, is you get, no, I end up with this roster, like, Lord. Remember, he has to hope like fucking, what's it, like aiming or someone goes, who was it?
The real question is, why didn't they just sell him to Hanwha Life or something like that? Like, sure, Hanwha, can we not go through another year with Zeka, please? Like, this guy, no patch Zerg made this big of a bag off of one fucking patch. This is insane how long this, because he never stayed good. That's the thing. He's like, he's kind of good. He's kind of good, but he's not good enough to be on that team with that player and those players and bring you a title, you know? So I don't really know what they're doing. And BDD, like if Hanwha was on this iteration of, or if BDD was on this iteration of Hanwha, like I think everybody would go and be like, wow, this is potentially a world's favorite heading into this year. But I think if you look at some of the other rosters that have been assembled, they're not immediately jumping out as number one. Although having Kanavi probably helps a lot until you play at Worlds.
Well, see, though, my corp on Kanavi is that was because he was playing with Chinese players. Give him all Koreans and stop him from doing the, like, yes, sir, Mr. President, when he meets, like, Faker, etc. Then maybe he'll actually carry the game. Now he's allowed to beat Faker. It's not culturally wrong to do it.
I can't really believe that KT is actually like going with Ghost as a support player.
Bro, he was literally, this is not a joke, Monty. Do you know what Ghost did right before he joined this team? He failed to qualify to the LCS, the LTA. He was on some like Latin American team where they didn't qualify.
I mean, I guess they have Paulo too, but like, I just, you know, after this team peaked so high, I don't know why this is the change you make.
Shout out to Ashley Kanglo with one of the worst corps I've ever seen, which is, I think she's friends with him or something. She said on Twitter, why is everyone so down on Ghost joining? He was one of the greatest weak side ADCs of all time. He's not playing ADC, is he, for start off? And also, what weak side is he going to do in this team? None of that even makes sense. That's like saying you should have fucking Macho Man Randy Savage join because he was really cool in the 80s. And he used to go, oh yeah, and then do a fucking movie. We're playing League. I don't know if he's alive. If he's dead, RIP. He probably is dead, to be fair. I have bad references. I have an old reference, but I'm reaching to, unfortunately. Whatever, The Rock. Pick someone like that, I guess. You all like The Rock.
The right people will understand. Of course.
Yeah, exactly. That's some insight for you, baby.
All right. Well, that was the last question that we got from people from this week. Not very many. You guys don't ask very many questions.
Go and subscribe and put a question in there. Put a good question for next week.
Apparently, there's lots of time to do questions. So more time for you.
Is it a question? Will you be back next week? Will it be someone else next week? Do you have any clue? I don't. That's why I'm asking now. Like,
I don't know.
I want to find out what's going on.
We'll find out.
Okay.
And somebody will be here next week for you guys. Till then,